Welcome, everyone. This is William Henry. I am thrilled to be with you on this incredible Saturday afternoon in December of 2015. Welcome to the Jesus Starchild disclosure, the Watchers and the Essenes. I'm truly grateful that you all are here. Thrilled to be joining you in this moment of consciousness to put our heads together, to put our hearts together, and explore a topic that is absolutely extraordinary and maybe even on the edge of our comprehension, but one that is so important in our world today, one that we must really begin to understand at a truly higher level. And that is my intention, because I believe that if we can grasp the true nature of this cosmic Christ story, it will not only transform our world, but it will transform us as individuals as well. So thank you for participating. Thank you for lending your support and your energy to this incredible adventure today. So a couple of announcements. First, our presentation will be divided into two parts. It'll be separated into sections, but it's essentially two parts. One, a discussion of Jesus as a star child of the Essenes, Jewish mystics living in Palestine and Egypt in the first, or the 100 years or so before the time of Jesus, and the Watcher angels with whom the Essenes claimed that they were interacting. The second aspect of our talk will have to deal with how the second coming and disclosure events are intertwined. The material I'm presenting comes from several sources, including my book, The Secret of Sion, The Judgment Day Device, and The Lost Secrets of the Watchers. In addition, I have some of this material available on these flash drives that have all of these books, these three books, as well as a dozen other books and other presentations about my featured research on the rainbow body of light, ascension, and, excuse me, human transformation, which is the, the underlying subject matter of our presentation today. To introduce the topic and to kind of put us in a mindset, I wanted to share with you the song Silent Night. In 2014, George Nuri of Coast to Coast AM and his producer, Tom Danheiser, got in touch with me, as well as other, as they said, favorite guests of Coast to Coast AM, people that they knew were rumored to be musicians or have an interest in playing music. And they asked us to contribute a song to a holiday album. And so I chose the song Silent Night, did my own arrangement of it, had my beautiful next door neighbor, Gretchen White, and my good friend, Rick Kipp, the bassist, join me. And I want to share that with you now because many of the images that we're going to be discussing throughout our presentation today made their way into this music video and are, in my view, kind of illustrative of this idea of the cosmic Christ child, the star child. So I hope you enjoy the video, and Neil should have that queued up for us on YouTube. So here we go.
Silent night, holy night. redeeming grace, Jesus Lord, Jesus Lord, at thy birth, Jesus Lord, Jesus Lord, at thy birth.
So there we have it. My version of Silent Night, taking Jesus as a star child through his life into the baptism, the transfiguration, the crucifixion, the ascension, and then ultimately the resurrection, all having to do with the manifestation of the light body. So beginning our presentation today on the star child, I wanted to go back to that moment called Easter in Christianity, the morning of the resurrection, because this is the moment when we see our themes come together. We see Jesus as the star being, the celestial being transformed into light. We see the angels, the watcher angels, and we also see Mary Magdalene as a representative of the Essenes. This scene depicts Mary Magdalene's visit to the empty tomb where she encounters the resurrected Christ accompanied by the watcher angels. This is pulled from the Bible, of course, the New Testament, the book of Matthew, telling how she went to the tomb on the Sabbath day at the dawn, and she had gone to the Holy Sepulchre, the place where the resurrection took place. And behold, there was a great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord descended from heaven. The angels of the Lord are also known as the watchers, the holy ones. They come from God's divine throne. They're part of his divine counsel. And this part of the story of the resurrection is telling us that one of these angels came down out of heaven, rolled away the stone of the tomb, and sat upon that stone. According to Mary Magdalene, his appearance was as bright as lightning, meaning he was a plasma being, and his raiment, his cloak, his garment was white as snow. And for fear of him, the watchers did quake and became as dead men. And the angel answered and said to Mary Magdalene, "Fear not, for I know that you seek Jesus who hath been crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, even as he said, come see the place where the Lord lay." So we're looking at this moment here where Mary Magdalene discovers that her beloved, her husband, certainly her partner, her guru. She was known as the first disciple of this avatar or guru. This is the moment where she learns that his life plan, his life mission has been successful. Because from the Essene point of view, as we're going to develop here, he came as a celestial or star being to show us the way to manifest the light body and to demonstrate the capabilities of the next better version of humanity, of which he was the forerunner, the herald, the exemplar, the target, if you will. What we see here is this plan involving the watcher angels and the Essenes, who were collaborating with one another to infuse humanity with a cosmic principle, an impulse of energy that reverberates to this day. And I believe that we are on the edge of this infusion of energy. We are as if being standing on a shore, receiving waves of this energy that are presently coming on our planet, uplifting all, hopefully, into a higher level of manifestation. In the story, Mary Magdalene sees two angels in white, sometimes described as men in white, sitting one at the head of Jesus and one at his feet where his body had lain. This beautiful painting is called The Sheath by Émile Fabry. It's a modern painting, but it very beautifully communicates to us this idea of the involvement of the watcher angels in the transmission of a cosmic energy in the event we know as the resurrection and later the ascension of Jesus. Shown here is beautifully exemplified as a celestial being, as a star being with bright red hair, indicating his hair is on fire because he burns with the love of the Creator. That line, his appearance was as lightning and his garment white as snow, is extremely important because we're not exactly sure who Mary Magdalene is talking about. Is she referring to the angel, the watcher angel, saying that he's a plasma light being, a lightning light being, wearing this white garment? Or is she referring to Jesus? Or probably, is it actually both that are beings of light or plasma beings now with these bright white garments? This is how the risen Jesus is portrayed in Christian resurrection art, where he is shown manifesting this light body, this celestial body or star body, as it's also called, that highly resembles a luminous ball of plasma or the sun. He has become one with the sun and is uniting here the Gnostic and the Egyptian metaphysics about the ability of humans to become a star being or a celestial being. So I've gone about collecting these images in Christian art, resurrection art, that portray not the suffering of Jesus, which is so glorified by traditional Christianity, but rather Jesus as an illuminated light being, where we see the story, the version of the crucifixion story, as more focused on his manifestation of the light body rather than the blood body, the suffering story. We want to focus on the illumination because ultimately it's going to enable us to tap into an aspect of ourselves that will enable us to follow through on our own individual path of resurrection and ascension. All the ascension mysteries of all the ancient traditions are brought into focus in this single image of Jesus as the resurrected man in the Shroud of Turin. In 2015, my wife Claire and I had the honor and privilege to be able to take a group of people to Turin, Italy for the showing of the Shroud of Turin. It was described by the Pope as an icon of love. Very important terminology because the word icon means that it's smart. It's not a static image. An icon is a two-way communication system. It's a two-way mirror. It's literally a portal. And the Shroud of Turin, as an icon of love, is literally a portal in and of itself that documents Jesus's rise from flesh to celestial flesh. In early 2015, I had a chance to talk with my old friend Greg Braden about the Shroud of Turin. Greg, as you know, is a scientist of some repute and a well-known speaker in this area. And he was doing a presentation about the Shroud of Turin, and I interviewed him about it. And he said, quote, "There are no scientifically valid reasons not to believe that the Shroud of Turin isn't the burial shroud, the actual burial shroud of Christ, the shroud that was laid on that stone that left an imprint of his resurrecting body as he beamed himself into the stars." So it's quite an extraordinary piece of human history that we have contact with here, and understanding that this is actually an icon, an image that's capable of transmitting a divine vibration, makes it all the more special and that much more incredible to behold. I want to talk about these men in white that appear in this biblical story of the crucifixion. John the Revelator in the book of Revelation had a vision of heaven in which he saw 144,000 souls standing around the throne of God. They were all clad in white robes and carrying palm branches in their hands. And in this beautiful painting, we see this assemblage of these angels in white holding the palm branches along with what look like bowling balls, but which are actually resurrection spheres or orbs of light that symbolize their power of resurrection. So these are in fact resurrected beings that we're looking at here, beings that have gone through a transformation from perhaps a flesh and blood form into a celestial flesh form, where they have now the power of resurrection and dwell in an otherworldly realm known as Sion in the Old and New Testament. These angels are referred to as the angels of the Lord or the watchers. They are considered to be of a class of angels known as the seraphim, the highest order of angels. They're considered to be beings of pure light and pure love. Many of you will be familiar with the archangels in their names of Gabriel, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and of course Lucifer as well are the named seraphim in the Bible. You can always identify the seraphim, the watcher angels in Christian art, by the number of wings that they wear. 6 wings. They are extraordinarily powerful beings, and the 6 wings are believed to be exemplifying or exemplary of their power. But it's also true that in Christian art, the watchers are portrayed with peacock wings as well. The eyes of the peacock symbolize the attainment of what the Tibetans called the rainbow body of light. The peacock wings or peacock feather was selected because of its multi-colors. And this conveys the idea of our transformation into a multicolored, luminous humanoid being. So here in this beautiful example here by Roger van der Weyden, we see the Archangel Michael with the peacock wings, but now we know that this is actually a symbol of his attainment of that light body. And you notice here that he also wears the bright white garment, the raiment or the cloak of light that also symbolizes these beings. And of course, Michael is the weigher of souls. He is a guide of humanity, a protector of humanity in the day of judgment. He is also the one who will weigh our souls against the balance or scales of cosmic truth. And this is why he is portrayed as the sort of the gateway, if you will, to the resurrected Jesus, who is portrayed on a rainbow as a fully transformed or translated man in the celestial realms. We'll come back to that imagery here in a moment. The Watchers have gotten a bad rap. There's conflicting schools among the Essenes, the Jewish mystics, who are largely responsible for providing us the story, the fully fleshed out story of the Watcher angels. The 2 schools are one that says they are heavenly beings that fell from a celestial region. And by fall, I mean they took on human form. The other take is that these are strictly human beings and they have no celestial connection. But that doesn't make any sense to me, because the Essenes were constantly going on about the idea of a human transformation into an angel and an ascension through 7 halls or holes in space into a higher heavenly realm called Sion once again. So I'm of the school that the Watchers are indeed, I take it at face value, that they are in fact celestial beings who, as the Essenes and other texts affirm, tell us once dwelled in the celestial throne of God. But for whatever reason, these beings decided to leave that celestial throne and take on human incarnation. And in Christian art, what you will see are the Watchers, as seen here in this painting by the Limborg brothers, diving out of their thrones, crossing over a barrier, here symbolized by a cloud. This is a boundary. This is the ring past not. The Old Testament forbids humans to try to enter the heavenly realms without permission of the gods. The Essenes said, forget about that. We're all going to be all about really basically knocking holes in heaven and barking down heaven's door. And this is what they set about doing. And they had this belief that all humans were capable of transforming into angelic beings with or without God's permission. So here in this painting, again by the Limborg brothers, we see the angel, one of the Watcher angels, falling into the human condition. He's now a flesh and blood being as opposed to a being of celestial flesh. This is how John Martin, an English painter in the 19th century, portrayed it. We see in the middle of the painting the clear boundary or dividing line. We're down here in the earthly realms, which is often portrayed as a place of torment and suffering. But when you get into the higher celestial realms, the beings that dwell there are portrayed wearing their bright white garments of light. It's symbolic of their light body. Their transformation has been complete. They are no longer flesh and blood beings. They are celestial beings, star beings, light beings, and now they have returned to the throne of Christ. And so here in John Martin's beautiful painting, you see the clear line demarcating the celestial and the earthly realms, with the angels gathered in joyful assembly, as the book of Hebrews says, wearing their bright white garments of light. It's very interesting that the New Testament says that the Watcher angels are the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their original habitation and are now bound by everlasting chains of darkness rather, awaiting the great day of judgment. So what this is saying is that these watcher angels indeed inhabited another realm referred to as their first estate, our original habitation in the heavenly realms, and came to earth and now are bound by everlasting chains of darkness. I have a sense that those chains they're referring to is actually human DNA, which is chained or ganged together to form the human body. And the watcher angels have been obsessed with human transformation into celestial beings ever since they arrived on this planet. Now here's the key insight here. The Greek word translated here, first estate, is okaterion, which according to Strong's Biblical Dictionary speaks to a dwelling place or habitation of the body as a dwelling place for the spirit. It's an abode for the soul. That term, okaterion, is used in only one other place in the Bible. That's in 2 Corinthians 5:2, and it refers to the resurrection body or eternal spiritual light body of Christ. What that means is that these watcher angels, when they originally dwelled in the heavenly realms, had the exact same type of body as the resurrected Christ, an eternal spiritual light body. And you know that Christ is shown portrayed or in that resurrection body when he has light coming out of his body, specifically rainbow colored light, because the Bible describes the resurrected Christ as sitting on a throne surrounded by rainbow colored light. So here in Von Eyck's depiction here, we see a beautiful example of the resurrected Jesus in the original light body shared by the watcher angels. And for whatever reason, this group of angels decided to come to earth and take on flesh and blood bodies. But what they sought to do while they're here is teach humans how to transform our flesh and blood body, into a body of celestial flesh, or the body of light. Now, if you've seen my work over the years, you've seen how I've linked together the idea of the resurrection body of Christ with the Tibetan rainbow body, or what they call the great perfection. In the Tibetan tradition, they teach that the human body is designed to be spun into a vortex of energy that ultimately manifests as 5-colored rainbow light. All we have to do is accelerate the frequency of the body, spin it into this vortex, and it ultimately manifests as the rainbow body, leaving behind hair, toe, and fingernails, which have no nerves to be transmuted. And the reason why Jesus is shown on a rainbow throne is because he has attained this perfect rainbow light body, and this is the light body of the watcher angels. And so when I talk about the Essenes wanting to turn themselves into angels, as we will be doing, this is the target. This is the light body, the angelic light body that they seek to attain. A Jewish historian, Philo, called the Essenes the most ancient of all the initiates, with a teaching perpetuated throughout an immense space of ages. This is just like the Tibetan rainbow body teaching, which the Tibetans say came from space. It did not come from Earth. It's taught in 13 star systems, including our own, according to the Tibetans. And it rings of this idea that the Essenes, as I believe, were highly influenced by this rainbow body teaching that came from the celestial realms. Pliny the Elder says the Essenes, for thousands of centuries, a people has existed that is eternal. They are the men in white. You've heard of the men in black, of course, from the movies. The Essenes are the men in white. They are of the lineage of the watcher angels, and were, in fact, as the Dead Sea Scrolls affirm, interacting with these angels. And specifically, this interaction was focused on the transformation of humanity. They had a centuries-long plan to bring in a new light, a new vibration into the human race that ended up manifesting as Jesus, that could show us the way to a new and better way of life for humanity. The Dead Sea Scrolls of the Essenes, discovered in 1947 in the caves in Qumran where the Essenes left them, revealed that they're a mystical tribe who are obsessed with human transformation into angels. Their scrolls contain their teachings about the perfection, their term, of an angelic light body composed of celestial flesh. This teaching was given to the Essenes by otherworldly beings referred to as the Watcher Angels or the Holy Angels of the Lord. In the Essene Community of the Rule, the Community Rule, one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the purpose of the Qumran community is described as to prepare the way for the Messiah in the desert wilderness, to prepare a people to meet the Lord. Now, here's the thing. The Essenes are preparing for a moment of disclosure. They are describing in the Dead Sea Scrolls close encounters of the first, second, third, fourth, all the way to the eighth kind. In the scrolls, they say we are not only seeing angels and celestial events, unidentified celestial events, which we're going to see are actually portals, but they are also describing close encounters of the fourth and fifth kind, human interaction with these beings. And then of the sixth and seventh and eighth kind, humans not only interacting with these celestial beings, but these celestial beings taking humans into their realm and transforming humans into celestial beings, a close encounter of the eighth and ninth kind. So we are talking very explicitly in the Dead Sea Scrolls about a moment of ancient disclosure, the disclosure of the existence of these beings, and a moment that is still reverberating in our time, and I believe will find fruition in the near future. The Lord that the Essenes are referring to was both a person, an individual, and a holy vibration. And they knew that ordinary humans with dead hearts and dead minds would not be able to perceive this being or feel this vibration. They knew and taught that a transformation, a preparation was necessary in order for us to be able to perceive and interact with this being and then be taken into the celestial realms by this being. And that was the purpose of the Essene community in Qumran. It was a community devoted to the purification, the transformation of their bodies, preparatory to receiving this divine light or vibration. And so in examples of such as what we see here from Ravenna, Italy, we see the arrival of this celestial being on a blue sphere, holding a ring of sovereignty in one hand, a ring or vibration of sovereignty, because that word ring will take the pun and recognize it as a tone or a vibration as well as a circular object. And he also holds the scroll of the law in the other hand. Very important, because those two go together in the Essene mindset, that we're talking about the emergence, the arrival of a vibration, as well as an individual and a group of individuals who are capable of manifesting that vibration in their bodies. Jesus was raised as an Essene. His mother, Mary, was an Essene initiate, as we'll see. His life from conception to birth, transfiguration, resurrection, and ascension exemplified Essene teachings about human transformation into celestial beings. He was raised as a high priest of the order of Melchizedek, or Michael Zadok, the Lord Michael, as in the Archangel Michael, and as a temple mystic. He demonstrated the transformation into the light body, and as I noted earlier, left a record of that transformation, the Shroud of Turin. Essene light body teachings are veiled in traditional Christianity, but they're intended for Jesus's brothers and sisters, as they were referred to by the Essenes, to discover them in order that they might transform themselves. This teaching isn't for everybody, the Essenes were saying. They knew that the path got narrower and narrower as we got closer to the arrival of this celestial being. In Christian prophecy, a transformation of all of humanity will take place of what's described as the last trump, the last reverberation of this tone or vibration of sovereignty. The word trump is Greek. It means tone, wave, or reverberation. So the book of Revelation, from which this prophecy derives, is telling us that there will be yet another tone or vibration that washes over the planet and will transform humanity in the twinkling of an eye. I want to talk just for a moment here about the Ascension, since this is the fulfillment of the Essene plan. They were interested in linking heaven and earth and demonstrating the way that any individual could break the boundary separating heaven and earth and ascend into the celestial realms. This ascension is described in the book of Acts, where Jesus was taken up before the disciples' very eyes, and a cloud hid him from their sight. We see him in the upper right corner as a cloud rider. He's ascending in this misty cloud. The disciples were looking up intently into the sky as he was going, when suddenly two men dressed in white, Essenes or watcher angels, or both, suddenly stood beside them. Men of Galilee, they said, why do you stand here looking into the sky? This same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you have seen him go into heaven. So here's the setup for what is referred to as the second coming in Christianity, that Jesus will return through the same cloud or portal of light that he ascended upon or within. And this is what makes this such an exciting time for us, is because we live in an age now where we understand the scientific principles of the Stargate or the wormhole. And we understand that interstellar travel is possible through stargates and wormholes. And we understand now, looking back at the Dead Sea Scrolls, what they meant by human transformation into celestial flesh. It meant transforming into a form that was capable of ascending through the sun, using our sun as a sun tunnel, a star gate to the heavenly realms. And in order to go through the sun, to become one with the sun, as the Gnostics taught, we have to be of the same essence or material as the sun. That essence is called plasma, the fifth state of matter. And it is the lightning-like state, the plasmic state, that the watcher angels were described as manifesting within in the Old Testament, as well as the Essene descriptions. So very important bit of linkage here in this beautiful painting, where we see, by Antonio Campi, where we see Christ becoming one with the sun and ascending through the sun as a sun tunnel, star tunnel, or star gate. This material is largely covered in my book, The Secret of Sion, if you want to follow up on it, to get all of the written references in the New Testament and elsewhere about what I've just been describing. In The Secret of Sion, I also collected various images of the ascension of Jesus. And again, remember, this isn't just about an ancient event. This is a description of a future event, because we are told over and over again that this figure will remanifest in our world the same way he left, which means he will manifest through a luminous cloud, a portal, a stargate. And as I've described in The Secret of Sion and elsewhere, there is a Stargate metaphysics enfolded within the works of the Essenes and Christianity that is very explicit in how Jesus was able to utilize or access the naturally occurring wormholes that permeate the universe, as well as literally transform his own body into a portal or a gateway, a sphere of light that enabled him to ascend into the universe and indeed travel the cosmos. And in fact, will then also be able to take physical manifestation once he reemerges from that portal or gateway. The images I've just been showing you are from the Kora Church in Turkey. And Claire and I would love to invite you to join us for Stargate Turkey in April 2017, where we'll be looking at many of the incredible depictions of ascension that we find in the temples or the churches of Turkey, as well as the oldest Stargate on the planet, Göbekli Tepe. So if you would like more information about our Stargate Turkey tour, please email me at whenrytn@earthlink.net. And now we're going to wait just a moment here while Neil loads up the second part of the first part of our presentation today. I really hope you're enjoying the images we're looking at here. It's an eyeful, to be certain. There's so much that we can cover in each and every image. And what I'm hoping to do today is give you a real bird's eye view of this story and of this artwork so that you can then pick your favorites and go back and look at some of these images in more detail on your own. I can tell you that the intention behind many of them is quite remarkable. That is, they are providing for us a sacred mirror. In fact, all of the images can be argued are icons or sacred mirrors that are designed to tune our consciousness into this higher dimensional reality out of which the men in white, the angels of the Lord, the watchers, and the Essenes originally emerged. Just pausing for a moment again while we wait for Neil to put up part B of part 1B. He says it's going to be 3 minutes. So what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, I'll take a moment over here just to come over and see if I can pick up any questions that you might have. Incredible. Wow. Love the paintings. That's great. Falling into human lust and desire with or without God's permission. So that is the key question about the Watchers, again, is why would beings who have attained this state of perfection, if you will, as light beings, choose to leave that original home or dwelling, the throne of God, and come to Earth and take on physical manifestation, something that had to be just like an incredible demotion from their perspective? I propose this answer. I've been linking the rainbow body, the light body of the resurrection body of Christ and the body of the Watchers with the Tibetan rainbow body of light. When a Tibetan seeks to attain the rainbow body, it's not for self-glorification. It's for glorification of God, of all that is. They believe that by taking on or attaining the rainbow body, they will be able to spread a greater amount of light and love than under their ordinary circumstances. They're called bodhisattvas, and their mission is to assist all who seek to become light beings to attain that level of attainment before they themselves will be able to leave this realm and return to their source. So I propose that the Watchers have that bodhisattva mentality, if not being bodhisattvas themselves, and they come here on this mission to uplift humanity, even to the level of the angels, not against God's will, but against the will of men who have interceded and made it sound like God does not want us to attain our full potential. I believe or propose there's a conspiracy theory here. It's not God who doesn't want us to attain these higher levels of manifestation. It's priests, it's men who intercede between man and God and have interjected themselves into this dialogue and said, you can't do that, at least not without us controlling the show. So I see evidence of this control throughout the Dead Sea Scrolls, where you have the battle between the two priesthoods. This is a long-standing cosmic battle that goes all the way back into the ancient times. Even the Sumerian texts describe a battle between two rival factions of gods, a brother or actually two brothers, one who seeks to uplift humanity to the level of the gods and even beyond, and his brother who seeks to keep humanity at the level of slaves and sex objects. This has been a battle that's been going on for millennia, and we see it being played out here in the story of the Watchers. Yeah, so we're talking here about the Essenes again, with the two factions of the Essenes, one trying to say that these guys are lusting after power, and the others trying to say, well, since you aren't probably capable of attaining this level of manifestation, you're disparaging those who do seek to do it, when in fact the Dead Sea Scrolls are very clear that part of our mission is to transform into celestial beings, to attain our celestial flesh. So let's see what else we have here. Great. Okay, so it looks like we're loading the next 40 or so slides that will represent the second part of part 1. And break. So what I've tried to establish in my work, especially in The Secret of Sion, and is what we've seen referenced in this artwork, is that Jesus is a Stargate traveling time traveler. There are numerous texts in the Gnostic canon that describe him going into the future and coming back and going into the future and appearing to future civilizations. These texts also tell us he ascended, he traveled, and will return through what we would interpret today not as a cloud, but as a traversable wormhole, a tear, a hole, a tunnel open in the fabric of space-time through which particles can travel to other places or parallel dimensions and back. But the catch here is that we won't be going through these wormholes in our flesh and blood bodies. We will be going through them, however, in the radiant light body or resurrection body, the Okiteron body of the resurrected Christ, which I propose, once again, is the same as the Tibetan rainbow body of light. We have Padmasambhava, the Tibetan guru who came from India to Tibet in the 8th century to teach the rainbow body. Padmasambhava was a later incarnation of a much earlier figure from around 200 BC, who I believe was the one who originally taught the rainbow body to the Essenes. He holds a resurrection stick in his hand. He wears the crown of salvation and the rainbow body of light. This is exactly what we see in Christian images of the resurrected Jesus, where he too holds the resurrection stick and is portrayed in the radiant rainbow body or light body. So here we see this Tanka of Padmasambhava, the lotus-born one. We see him on his lotus throne, which symbolizes ascending from ignorance to wisdom. We see him with his Vajra, which symbolizes compassion in action, which is the key to attainment of the rainbow body in the Tibetan scheme. He radiates golden rays. He wears the breastplate of righteousness. He holds the resurrection stick and the crown of salvation. It's kind of funny. A number of years ago, I did a presentation with David Wilcock, and he copied and pasted my rainbow body work into his material and came to a different conclusion about Padmasambhava, saying that Vajra is not compassion in action. That's some kind of a lightning bolt weapon. And this lotus throne rainbow body is not a luminous body that's developed from within us at all. It's a tin can spaceship. Now, I don't subscribe to that perspective of these images. And the reason why is because if you believe he's holding a weapon and that he's traveling through the cosmos in a tin can spaceship, you've, one, completely dissociated yourself from the Tibetan understanding of this and the Tibetan teaching. And two, you've deprived an individual of the opportunity to develop themselves spiritually. Because what it says is, you're never going to be able to do this on your own. Just wait for the tin can spaceship to arrive, then you can ascend into the heavens. So I put that on the table because that is certainly a perspective, one that is followed by quite a few people. And I just find it fascinating that perhaps it could be both is the argument that comes along. But I just feel that to interpret this imagery as a weapon and as a spaceship does not do us any service, and it is not the way that I believe the Tibetan rainbow body masters, the gurus, manifest, nor do I believe that this is how Jesus will manifest either. What I believe is that the rainbow body imagery, as it's portrayed in this art, is symbolic of a sphere of consciousness into which our consciousness is deposited at the time of our translation into a celestial being, and it is capable of opening a stargate or a wormhole. As I said, the dorje is the key symbol of the Tibetan tradition. It symbolizes the compassionate, skillful means that destroy ignorance. And compassion in action is actually the way it is described in the Tibetan Museum, the Rubin Museum in New York City. So very important aspect of it, because the Tibetans describe our attainment as the light of the light body as the great perfection. And one of the interpretations of the word perfection is to mean not only whole, wholly complete, but also compassionate. That is the key, I believe, to the attainment of the rainbow body. I'm going to read for you here from the Hymn of the Pearl. It's a Gnostic manuscript from the 2nd century. It's also called the Robe of Glory. Listen to this description as they describe Jesus wearing his robe of glory. My treasure and my wealth and my bright embroidered robe, which was variegated with bright colors, with gold and with beryls and rubies and agates and sardonyxes varied in color, and skillfully worked in its home on high with diamond clasps, all its seams were fastened. And the image of the King of Kings was depicted in full over it, and like the sapphire stone also were its manifold hues. I believe that it's not that the soul really wears gold and jewels, but that the splendor of the light body is akin to the radiance of these jewels. And so when we see Jesus wearing the breastplate of righteousness with these many colored jewels, I believe this is symbolic of his attainment of the light body consciousness. In this painting by John Van Eyck, Jesus, as the high priest, wears the crown of salvation. He radiates the golden rays. He holds the resurrection stick, the breastplate of righteousness. He's on the Ascension Throne. I believe that what these are describing here are psycho-spiritual attributes. These are apps of the soul, if you will, that Jesus has activated within himself. There may well be a crowned or jeweled crown out there somewhere that we might be able to discover that once belonged to Jesus. But more importantly, I think it symbolizes our activated crown chakra, our higher wisdom centers. He radiates light or wisdom. The resurrection stick, in my opinion, is actually our spinal cord system, which culminates in our pineal gland, which activates or opens the crown of salvation. The breastplate of righteousness is the compassionate heart, the fully awakened or illumined heart. And the Ascension Throne, that's called the Merkaba throne, or in fact, the rainbow body. So when we look at these images here of Van Eyck and of Padmasambhava, we see that they're interchangeable. They both hold the exact same tools and implements, but they aren't actual physical tools, just like Padmasambhava doesn't fly around probably in a tin can spaceship. These are attributes of our consciousness that we can activate. And once again, a continuing theme throughout our presentation, the Tibetans teach that just connecting with this image of the guru, Padmasambhava, in his rainbow body, as we see in this tanka, can activate the rainbow body from within us. The reason why is because, like Jesus, Padmasambhava is an energetic being, an avatar, who can manifest in any form, even through a painting. So let's take a look at a couple more examples of Jesus resurrecting in the rainbow body. In this example, we also see him ascending in this vortex of angels. But the key thing here is that this is ultimately the body of the Watcher angels, and it was the goal of the Essenes to bring this teaching into human form, into their community. As I said earlier, I believe that the period around 200 BC is when we see the Tibetan monks coming into, as well as the Indian gurus, coming into Alexandria, Egypt, and interacting with the Essenes, who are there known as the Therapeutae, and originally delivering to them this teaching. And in Tibetan art, you will see the descent of these bodhisattvas upon what appeared to be like space elevators. Not really, but these are portals or pillars upon which these beings descend and ultimately manifest on these thrones. So we're noting here the correspondence between the Tibetan rainbow body images and the descent of the Buddha, and how closely it parallels the images of the resurrected Christ in his rainbow body. This is the teaching of the Essenes. This is the teaching of the Watcher Angels, and it is the ultimate disclosure, I believe, that these celestial beings wish for us to get a handle on. These are the ascension mysteries that have been taught for centuries, and I believe are going to see their ultimate fulfillment during our time. In December 2010, I received an email from a trusted friend and colleague. It was actually Anne Strieber, the wife of Whitley Strieber. Anne passed this summer, and I know that she's on her magnificent celestial journey, and want to just offer this moment to say thank you once again, Anne, for suggesting that I get a hold of this book called The Revelation of the Magi. And as Anne had said, it will be, and truly is, important to my work. The book tells the familiar story of the three kings or magi who follow a star in search of the Christ child, but from a completely different perspective than we are taught in Sunday school or are commonly known to imagine. This book, The Revelation of the Magi, says that the Magi star is not a star, a comet, a planetary conjunction, or even an angel, but Christ himself in celestial form, a star child. In the Revelation of the Magi, he manifests through a gate, a stargate. He has visited Earth many times, says the text, past and future. This is the premise of the Revelation of the Magi, which is an extraordinary 8th century Gnostic manuscript, which was resurrected from the proverbial Vatican archives by Dr. Brent Landau, who at the time was a Harvard Divinity School PhD candidate. And he provided a first ever English translation and critical analysis of this remarkable but largely unknown text. And I give my thanks to Dr. Landau for his incredible work in bringing this forward. As my friend realized, the premise that Jesus is a Stargate traveling time traveler is exactly what I've been saying about Jesus for years. He transformed himself into pure light in order to traverse the wormholes or cosmic shortcuts permeating the universe. And now, here is a lost Christian text saying exactly the same thing. For me, this was a validation of my work and provided the connective tissue that links my modern conception of Jesus with the ancient or original conception. So what I want to do now is take you through a series of images that portray the star child concept. This book, The Revelation of the Magi, was written in the 8th century, but it suddenly found immense popularity during Renaissance Italy. And some of the world's greatest painters started to visualize Christ as a star child, including Roger van der Weyden, who we see, whose painting we see here. We see the Magi, and we see the Christ child not just simply riding in a star, but literally conveying the idea that he is a star child. He is a celestial being who came from the heavenly realms. In the painting, van der Weyden shows us it's part of a triptych. On the right over here, you see the manifestation of the star child. In the middle is a nativity scene. And on the left-hand side, we see a scene of the Virgin Mary with the star child Jesus on her lap, manifesting through what can be interpreted as a portal or a gateway. According to the French Golden Legend, the Tibetan Sibyl, who is seen here, had prophesied the birth of Christ to Augustus Caesar. And in this scene, the Tibetan Sibyl shows the Roman Emperor Augustus the shining star, and the shining star child and Mary manifesting through this portal of light. So this is, again, showing us that over and over again, the manifestation of this star child is connected with the opening of a portal in our consciousness, as well as perhaps a gateway or a tear in space-time. We see above her the double-headed eagle. This is the omnipresent emblem of the Habsburgs, the royal dynasty that are also, of course, connected with the bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. In the center of the painting, we see the nativity scene. Mary is illuminated. The Christ child, now in flesh and blood form, is also luminous. Here in the detail, we see Mary's illuminated consciousness. The star upon which he rode is discussed or described in another book, a second century book called the Proto-Evangelium, as being very great and so bright in the skies that it dimmed all the other stars so that they appeared not. Now, what kind of a star are we talking about that dims all the other stars? Is that just hyperbole? Or is this a very dramatic description of the opening of a hole or a tear in the fabric of space-time? Let's examine another Starchild interpretation of Roger van der Weyden. Again, we see a triptych here, similar scenes with in the center, the nativity, and on the right, we see the emergence of the Starchild, and on the left, the Tibetan Sibyl once again. So let's walk through this here and take a look at the other way that van der Weyden imagined this scenario. Here's our Tibetan Sibyl. We see Augustus swinging the censer full of incense, and then we see the manifestation of Mary through a portal on a throne holding the Starchild. And then over on the other wing of the triptych, we see the descent of the Starchild holding in his hand a ribbon of cosmic energy. This is almost an invitation for the Magi, who we see here, to grab a hold of that vibration, sort of to either pull down the Starchild or to perhaps lift themselves up more than likely to his vibration. The Starchild descended from the realm of the Ancient of Days, which we just saw a moment ago. And now the way van der Weyden shows it here is we see the descent of the Starchild holding the ribbon of energy. And on the diagonal line, we see the descent into physical manifestation now, taking on the flesh and blood body. Another take on this comes from the meeting of Augustus and the Sibyl by Ghirlandaio. Take a look here. Ghirlandaio has dispensed with the child altogether, but now is showing Christ as this brilliant orb of luminous plasma-like energy, a vibration, almost like the sun, but also hinting at the idea of the portal as well. The dots in the center appear to form sort of a vortex around the initials IHS, the initials of Jesus the Savior. This is adapting or pulling on this idea of the Gnostic concept that who we are is in fact a drop of cosmic energy as well. We're all star children. We all take on physical manifestation just like Jesus did. So in fact, when we're following the story of the Starchild, we are in fact learning our true story. We're learning about our origins from the celestial realms and our divine spark or cosmic star child taking on physical manifestation in a flesh and blood body. It is no exaggeration, according to the Gnostics, to say that the discovery of this transcendent inner aspect of ourselves, our own star child, and the supreme concern about its destiny is at the very center of Gnostic belief. And connecting with it and understanding the star child is in fact the aim of all of our lives. Let's look at a couple more examples of the star child here, of the star child. This one comes from Romania, from Voronet in Romania. We see a sort of a layer cake here of the universe with the star child up at the very top of the painting. He's at a second layer beneath the layer of the Ancient of Days, as it's called in the Bible. We see these angels opening up a portal or a gateway into this other realm. It's a realm beyond the stars, beyond our imagination. And it's in fact the realm out of which Christ emerges. But in his ascended form, he's actually shown in a lesser heaven than that place of origin. So here in the detail, you see the Ancient of Days in the rainbow ring. The angels are holding open this window for us, this portal or gateway into this realm beyond our imagination, beyond our comprehension. And we see how it's connected to the realm of the enthroned Christ, who's also now sitting on a rainbow radiating light. The reason I wanted to show this to you is because it brings in another key bit of symbolism of the Starchild, the Ophanim wheels, the red wings of these beings. Take a look at this image here in detail of these red winged wheels that are called the Ophanim. They're thought to be energy orbs or possibly even angels themselves. These are methods of transportation that are utilized by the watcher angels, the seraphim, the highest order of angels. And here I've superimposed the Merkaba star over the 6 wings of the seraphim, because I believe that what we're looking at here with these 6 winged beings is that they are beings who in fact attained the throne of ascension, which is also called the Merkaba. And this is ultimately what the watcher angels and the Essenes and the Starchild want for us to know, is that we all have the capability of getting hold of our, let's call them Hot Wheels, if you will, our Ophanim wheels, our red-winged wheels. And this is why in ascension images, as well as return images of the Starchild, you will see Jesus riding in a rainbow ring, symbolic of the rainbow body, with the red-winged wheels attached to it as symbolic of his method of conveyance through the cosmos. So the red-winged wheels actually symbolize a method of transportation that goes hand in hand with the rainbow body imagery, because once we're able to attain the rainbow body, we then travel through the celestial realms as a light being. So you'll see the Starchild, Jesus Starchild, as a celestial being, as a star being, in his light body form, very often also with the Ophanim wheels at his feet, as I'll show you in the detail here in a moment. Very important bit of information comes from the Apocrypha of John, one of the secret Gnostic Gospels, where Jesus manifests in his light body form, and he tells John, I have come to teach you about what is and what was and what will be, in order for you to understand the invisible world and the world that is visible and the immovable race of perfect humanity. What Jesus is telling John is that he is part of this celestial race of perfect light beings who have attained their ultimate manifestation. He is a star child, a member of the immovable race of the perfect light humans. And so in this example here, we see him in this blue sphere, this sphere of light, this orb of light, holding another 2 spheres in his hand, or 3. And at his feet, we see his Hot Wheels, indicating he has the ability of translating his body through the cosmos. Those Hot Wheels are often featured in these ascension images of the return of the Starchild. Both the ascension and the return, those images are linked, because as the book of Acts says, Jesus will return the same way he left. And so when he's returning, he's going to be returning through this portal of light with this, probably this stream of energy attached to that portal. At least that's the belief that is conveyed in Last Judgment art, where we see the return or the descent of the Starchild with the Ophanim wheels and this energy stream coming from this portal of light. We also see another very interesting object. The Annunciation throne is featured in this artwork as well. I'm going to talk about this Annunciation throne later on, but I'm just observing that it's there in this Last Judgment image from Romania. And here we see in the detail the stream or pillar of light or fire is a method through which beings are descending into the earth plane as well as ascending into the heavenly realms. So this is some kind of a stream of energy or light that accompanies the return of the Starchild. Here in this photo that I took in Santa Croce in Florence, Italy, we see the arrival of the Starchild, a see the star child and the Magi linked by that same stream of energy that literally manifests from the body of the star child. In Star Trek vernacular, this is sort of a tractor beam of energy that energetically links us to the star child on his descent. And again, this was the quest of the Essenes, was to prepare themselves mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally so that they could connect with, first perceive, and then connect with this beam or stream of energy coming from the star child. Here's Sassetta's take on the arrival of the star child. It's called the Journey of the Magi. We see the Magi, and we see that they are not actually following a star. Rather, they are following a star child or a star being on the earth plane. You can just detect the face inside that brilliant golden orb that we see presented here that is radiating this luminous, perhaps purple or blue light. What we're actually seeing here is the Christ spirit breaking from the 4D world into the 3D world and taking on human manifestation. In the Book of the Bee, attributed to the 13th century Bishop Shalamon, this star is not a star, once again, but a secret and rational power. It is right to know, says the bishop, that it was not of the other stars, but a secret power which appeared like a star. The star was not seen by them at night only, but also during the day and at noon. And it was seen at the time when the sun is particularly strong because it was not one of the stars. But they appear to be looking through the sun here as a sort of a lens that enables them to peer into this star that is not a star. He goes on to say that the star did not remain always up in the height of heaven, but sometimes it came down and sometimes it mounted upon and also stood over the head of Christ, as the evangelists tell us. In fact, almost all the heretical and esoteric literature that deals with the star of the Magi goes to great lengths to reveal that the Christ star was not a star at all, but something beyond all stars. In an earlier apocryphal text, the history of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the star is actually called a watcher, a name, as we've said, that's given to the class of angels, the angels of the Lord. This watcher was sent in the form of an exceedingly brilliant, fiery star that was like unto the great sun in its light standing over Persia. So this is what we see these Renaissance artists try to convey, that the manifestation of the Christ energy came in the form of a star child, and that this star child or star being came from a realm beyond all stars, maybe even beyond our imagination is what they're saying, beyond this reality, and manifested in our reality, crossing over, as if crossing over from the dream world into our physical world. The star child came from this other dimensional world in order to show us the way for us to manifest our own star body. The Essene Mysticism focused on the creation or perfection of a bodily vehicle capable of holding the higher dimensional Christ light. I mean, think about it. We're describing the emergence in our reality of a being from a whole other realm. And there had to be a preparation for that. And this is what the Essenes knew. This is what they practiced. And this is what they left for us to rediscover in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Essenes clearly viewed themselves collectively as a temple. They chanted together to raise their vibration, to create a ring or circle of initiates that could manifest this higher dimensional being. In addition, they were preparing their individual bodies to be recipients of the holy transmission and receptacles of the glorious light body in order to prepare between them a suitable physical vehicle for the incarnation of Christ. And this is what we're going to look at in our next section here. I just wanted to leave you, before we go to the break here, with a couple of statements from the Essenes, who said that they were given in a song by the Archangel Michael a seat among those perfect forever, a mighty throne in the congregation of the gods, and that this song, this chant of Michael, enabled them to take their seat in the congregation of the heavens so that none could find fault with them, and they were reckoned with the gods and established in the holy congregation. They're clearly saying a tone, wave, or reverberation, a song, transformed them into God-like beings. I shall be reckoned with the gods, and my glory with that of the king's son. Neither refined gold nor gold of Ophir can match my wisdom. What the Essenes are saying is they found this vibration that transformed them into the same body as Christ, and they wouldn't have anything in the universe in its place. This author's claim, this Dead Sea Scroll author's claim to have been taken up and given a throne in heaven and reckoned or made perfect like the gods and counted as one of the gods is extraordinary. But this is exactly what the Essenes were doing. Jesus answered them in this regard in the New Testament when he said, "Is it not written in your law? I have said, you are gods. I said, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High." He's reciting verbatim what the Psalm 82:6 said, that we are all gods. Wake up, everybody. This is who we really are. And this is what we are meant to do, to embrace this vibration and to transform ourselves into celestial beings. And this is the importance then of these images, is that it gives us a lock, it gives us a signature, a vibration. And like that tractor beam again, if we can link mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally with these images of the resurrected Jesus, the star child in his star body, the promise is we too can manifest this same body. So that concludes part one of our presentation. What I would like to do is take a short 10-minute break here to load our second presentation, which is titled The Annunciation. This is the announcement of the arrival or the impregnation of the Virgin Mary and the arrival of the Christ child. And it's a very important bit of insight into the star child here. And as we get into this, I think you're going to see that clearly that this was part of the fulfillment of a long-term plan on the part of the Essenes. The Annunciation, according to Wikipedia, is the Christian celebration of the announcement by the Archangel Gabriel to the Virgin Mary that she would conceive and become the mother of Jesus, the Son of God, marking his incarnation. Gabriel told Mary to name her son Yeshua, meaning Yahweh is salvation. So once again, we turn to the Ark, where we see the Archangel Gabriel, one of the watchers, a seraphim, here manifesting in this painting with brilliant rainbow-colored wings, holding a rod, the resurrection stick, in his or her hand, and transmitting the Holy Spirit, symbolized by a dove, into the ear, the consciousness of Mary. The fact that the Holy Spirit enters into her ear suggests that sound component once again, that we're talking about a tone, wave, or a reverberation that transforms Mary's body preparatory to the arrival of the divine star child or Christ child. The scene of the Annunciation traditionally takes place inside the house in Mary's bedroom, or sometimes outside in a garden, or even better, between garden and bedroom, to show the two worlds. This is Botticelli's take on it, and we see that the clear divider, we see that column, or several columns actually, dividing the bedroom of Mary and the Archangel Gabriel. This is to convey the idea that Gabriel is coming from another realm, perhaps even another dimension. And Mary is in the earth plane. She's kneeling towards the angel, indicating that she is giving this figure reverence. And the angel Gabriel holds flowers. And in some people's opinion, this is another tip-off that this is in fact a sort of a courtship that is taking place here. At this time in her life, Mary is an Essene initiate, and she is not yet married. She's a virgin, according to the text, which means she's never been married and never had intercourse with a human being. But yet she appears to be being courted by this celestial being who has arrived to announce the emergence, the soon-to-be emergence of the divine child, the star child. So here we see behind Gabriel this spray or beam of light or energy, vibration that is actually going through the walls of the column into Mary's bedroom. The subjugation of Mary, the maligning of her as a meek, mild, and mindless peasant girl has been literally harmful to millions of women over the centuries. And nothing could be further from the truth. My research into the Essenes reveals that Mary, like the other Essene women, were highly trained metaphysical initiates. We are talking about Magi. We are talking about people of the highest intention, the highest purity, and the highest spiritual capability. And this is what enabled Mary to, one, perceive the divine being, the Archangel Gabriel, but also to hold the vibration of the Christ child. In reality, Mary of Galilee was a highly trained Essene initiate. This is a photo that I took in Rome, and it shows Gabriel holding once again the lily. And I particularly like this one here because Mary is surrounded by an aura or an orb of rainbow colored energy, perhaps hinting at the idea that she, as I'm suggesting here, was part of this Essene lineage who were manifesting or in the process of manifesting the glory body or the rainbow body of light. Here's Leonardo's take on the Annunciation. Some quite striking symbolism is presented here. On the left, we see the Archangel Gabriel, of course. We see Mary sitting with her legs spread wide open, with an open book on a pedestal in front of her. And we see this chest with a shell and some other ornate symbolism on it. Could in fact be the Ark of the Covenant that we're looking at. A thin, transparent veil that she's wrapped around her, and it's in fact wrapped around the book as it sits on the pedestal. And we look at this halo that she's wearing, and it's just absolutely beaming energy. And is, again, a tip-off to this idea that Mary is this highly trained initiate who's expanded her consciousness to be able to enter into the realm or vibration of the celestial beings, of the Watchers. This altar, this podium, sarcophagus, again, it might be the Ark of the Covenant. And the reason why I say that is because Mary is considered to be the Ark of the New Covenant. She is the holy vessel that was able to temporarily hold the Christ energy or the Christ child. And we see the scallop shell, the symbol of the divine feminine. We see the Fibonacci spirals as well, also indicative of the divine feminine. So Leonardo is telling us here that this is clearly all about the divine feminine. According to Luke, the Gospel of Luke, the angel Gabriel approached Mary with words of great honor. And this again goes to this idea that she is not some illiterate peasant girl, mindless peasant girl. She's in fact a highly trained initiate. Hail Mary, full of grace, is what the angel said upon meeting Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace. Many artists paint Gabriel kneeling in recognition of the honor that was given to her. And in fact, in this instance here, in Leonardo's case, he shows Gabriel with the luminous, but these very muscular wings as well. They're almost, you could use the word erect. This is a very, very powerful figure here, a living being manifested before Mary, a being of true power and virility as well. And above the wings, we see this tree that is kind of resembling Egypt, but more importantly, we also see this cloud that is hovering above. This could simply be the type of cloud that was familiar to Leonardo in the area around Milan in northern Italy. Others would say it's a tin can spaceship, and I just have to put that in there because, again, there's this mindset that disclosure has something to do with the arrival or the announcement of the arrival of guys flying around in flying saucers. And in my view, that could be one part of a much larger disclosure of the existence of these super advanced celestial beings that we once called angels. And these angels don't travel in flying saucers. The angels don't travel in tin can spaceships. They travel in luminous vehicles of light that the Jewish mystics, the Essenes included, would refer to as the Merkaba, the light throne, the light chariot. It's a consciousness vehicle. In fact, Leonardo draws a diagonal line here from his saucer portal cloud down to a sort of an egg-shaped or ovoid-shaped dark shadow in front of Gabriel. Sort of looks like a hole has been opened here through which the angel might emerge, or through which the angel could, in fact, leave the scene if he chose to. Another Annunciation, quite famous one, well known among UFO enthusiasts, is the Annunciation by Carlo Crivelli. Highly misinterpreted, in my opinion. So let's take a walk through it. The key feature, according to a lot of folks, is swirling cloud, the same cloud that we saw Leonardo portraying just a moment ago as saucer shaped. But now Crivelli's got these concentric rings of luminosity with angels in the concentric rings. This is the opening of a portal. This is the opening of a hole in space through which this other dimensional, this higher dimensional light or vibration, the Starchild, is going to ride the beam of this divine ray of light that is manifesting from the portal and actually is through the walls of the temple building that Mary is enclosed within. And as we follow the path of that divine ray or beam, we see that the dove of the Holy Spirit is riding upon it. And the beam appears to enter into her crown chakra. Let me go back. Symbolized by the jewel that she has on her crown, but it's probable that it's actually going into her ear, which is the way that the sound or vibration of the Holy Spirit actually enters her body. So here's Crivelli taking a riff off of Leonardo again, showing the clear division between the realm of the angels, the celestial beings, and the realm of Mary in her temple enclosure. Here's Gabriel again with these very muscular, kind of erect wings. He's got this very interesting headdress on as well. The feather is in the shape of a serpent, which is intriguing because this is a pun, a rebus on the fact that the seraphim angels, of which Gabriel is a member, were called the winged or feathered serpents. So here's Crivelli showing this feathered or serpent-shaped feather on the crown of the angel Gabriel, the seraph. Crivelli had a very powerful imagination when it came to portraying or visualizing for us the opening of a hole in space-time and the emergence of the Starchild. And this is what we see here, where Mary is conducting the Starchild through this rip in the fabric of space-time, this open portal or gateway, this mandorla, almond-shaped gateway, filled with light, surrounded by these burning angels, the seraphim, the burning ones, as they were also called, again, because they burned with the love of the Creator. So this Stargate is being opened by the power of love, which is the only power, according to this mythic tradition that I'm describing here, that is capable of opening a Stargate. Much as we want to try to do it at CERN and other places, the ancients believed that it was only the power of love that would enable us to open these gateways into the celestial realms where these angels are emerging from. So here's Crivelli's take on this. Jesus holds that power ball, that sphere, the resurrection sphere, indicating the power of resurrection, showing he brought it with him into this dimension. And we see this just fantastic spray of radiant divine light emanating from that portal. You can almost allow it to just spray out into the room all around you and fill up your space with this really amazing divine light. Here's Fra Angelico's take from the Prado in Madrid. We're just going to go through these fairly quickly because you get just to get the gist of the idea that these painters are trying to communicate the idea of the arrival of this celestial vibration coming from another dimensional realm. And so here in Fra Angelico's version of it, we see in the upper left-hand corner the hand of God releasing this divine beam. We see the dove riding upon it, going into, again, the consciousness of Mary. And looking in the detail here, we see the hands releasing this power beam, this divine beam. We see it entering into the temple enclosure where Mary's located, which is probably actually the Holy of Holies of Solomon's temple, if we're keeping track or if we're counting. And then in the detail, we see that Gabriel is in fact one of these illuminated beings. We know that by the flicker or the flame coming from the top of Gabriel's head. Gabriel is one of the burning ones. His consciousness burns with the light and love of the Creator. And it's strikingly similar, of course, to the head of Buddha, who's also portrayed with a similar flame coming out of the top of his crown chakra as well. It indicates the light of illuminated consciousness. So we're dealing again here potentially with these angels as, in fact, bodhisattvas, these beings of light and love who are here to bring the vibration of the planet to raise it to a higher level. I love how Fra Angelico has just this radiant spray of light coming off of Gabriel's body, conveying the idea that we're dealing with a luminous but humanoid angelic being. You can see that Gabriel is in fact wrapped in that cocoon, quite reverent, bowing to Mary in honor, once again, of this Essene initiate. And here in the detail, we see the spray, the dove of the Holy Spirit riding on this spray of this divine being coming from this other dimensional realm. Filippo Lippi portrays the Annunciation in this way. Mary is wrapped in this rainbow-colored coat of many colors. Absolutely stunning in its implications, as well as her plasma crown. This is part of the idea here, is that we're dealing with beings who are described as lightning-like. Lightning is plasma. So these are plasma beings that we're dealing with here. And look at how Filippo Lippi puts this incredible plasma-like crown on Mary's head, as well as this transparent veil. It's suggesting once again that her consciousness is able to connect with this other dimensional realm out of which the Starchild will emerge. You notice the star on her cloak as well. This indicates that she's wearing what's called the royal robe, the pallid garment, or the miracle garment. She's got her star body on that corresponds with her star crown or her plasma crown. Really awesome depiction. And of course, anytime I'm seeing a multicolored or many-colored cloak in a religious painting such as this, I'm automatically going to link it with the rainbow body of light, because I know that that is their ultimate goal, is to attain the highest human perfection, which is the manifestation of the rainbow body. Here's another particularly interesting Annunciation, the Master of the Virgin among Virgins. We see, as usual, the partition indicating that Gabriel is coming from another realm. Mary's in her temple enclosure. But in this case right here, we clearly see that Gabriel is masculine, sometimes portrayed as feminine, but in this case, masculine. We see the descent of the dove of the Holy Spirit. But look what is also portrayed here as well. We see the Starchild riding the beam of light and is actually carrying or bringing the cross with him. Now, that's pretty heretical in traditional Christian circles, because the crucifixion was supposed to be kind of a random event. It'd be a completely different story if Christ brought the cross, some kind of an instrument or device of transmutation, with him, as is clearly portrayed in this scene here. The idea that the cross is a technology for transmuting the human body into light is one that is well known in esoteric circles, and I think is what the painter had in mind here when he's portraying Christ, the Christ child, in a luminous kind of rainbow-like body, delivering the cross, the instrument of human transmutation, with him. This is a technology. as well as a teaching that is being described here. Now, this idea of a divine being, Gabriel, courting, romancing a human female, and creating a hybrid being, an offspring that is a star child, part human, part celestial being, is not original to the Essenes and certainly not to Christianity. We need look no further than the story of Hatshepsut, the famous female pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt, where we find the identical story. This story is told at her mortuary temple on the West Bank in Luxor, Egypt. It's called Deir el-Bahari, the most holy of holies, the most holy place, an extraordinary temple. And on the birth colonnade of this temple, all the way across, we see an extraordinary story. The decorations, which are repeated on the walls of the temple at Karnak, by the way, depict Hatshepsut's divine birth. In the short version of the story, to further legitimize that she is the rightful heir to the throne of Egypt, she recorded on the walls of her temple in the northern half of the middle terrace the story of her divine birth to prove that she is the physical daughter of the god Amun. The story of her divine birth is recorded as a series of sequential scenes showing the contact between her mother, Queen Amos, and Amun-Ra, and how she is the physical daughter of this celestial. It's a close encounter of the eighth kind that is being described here, actually a fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth kind, where a celestial being is manifesting before a human female, impregnates that being, and that the offspring is then a hybrid being, a star child of this divine being, in this case Amun-Ra, and an earthly female. Very powerful story depicted. The story moves from heaven to Egypt. Queen Amos is sleeping alone in her boudoir, is visited by the god whom she believes to be her husband, and they sit face to face on her bed in a scene which represents one of the few occasions that a queen of Egypt is allowed to communicate directly with a deity. Amen tells Amos that she is to bear a daughter who she will name Hatshepsut, the one who is joined with Amen, foremost of women. So here in this space of 1,500 years, from the 18th dynasty, around 1425 BC to the time of Mary, we see an update or duplication of this exact story of a divine being becoming the lover of a human female and creating a hybrid offspring, a star child. So the mother of Hatshepsut and the Virgin Mary are virtually identical in their life mission and their life function. This introduction of ancient Egyptian symbolism into our conversation is important because it helps us to illuminate important symbolism in Christian art. For example, the vase of lilies that we see in these Annunciation scenes, which is often prominently placed between Gabriel and the Virgin, symbolizes both the Virgin's purity as well as Christ's incarnation. And this is a painting by Sacetta in which we see the Archangel Gabriel, luminous, humanoid, bowing in reverence before Mary, and in between them is this vase filled with lilies. Now, the thing about that is that this exact scene is a virtual duplicate of another scene that you will see in the Temple of Seti at Abydos in Egypt. And at the Temple of Seti in Abydos, it's not Gabriel and Mary that are featured, it's the god Thoth and Seti, who is portrayed here as Osiris. And in this scene, the bird god, the god of divine magic and alchemy, Thoth, is resurrecting Seti from the dead with the key of life. The key of life in Tibetan Buddhism is compassion in action. The key of life in ancient Egypt is probably just what it says it is, a tone, wave, or reverberation that is transmitted by these divine beings. The key thing here is that in between Thoth and Seti is a vase of blue lotuses or blue lilies. So symbolically, we are looking at exactly the same scene. We're combining or illuminating the action image of the lilies based on our understanding that the lily is the blue lily in particular is the symbol of divine beings in ancient Egypt. So once again, we're leaving ancient Egypt in 1500 BC and going forward into the Renaissance period, a period of 3,000 years, and seeing a recycling of the same imagery and the same idea. The blue lily is actually called a lotus, and the floral symbol of Upper Egypt is actually known as Nymphaea ceracula, or excuse me, ceralia, which is actually known today as a water lily. This flower, along with the papyrus flower, was shown throughout Egypt in tombs and temples to symbolize the union of Upper and Lower Egypt. Now, the pun here is that the Upper Egypt we're talking about is actually in the celestial realms, and the Lower Egypt is the earthly realms. So actually, the blue lily is the symbol of the unity of heaven and earth. So the same can be said for the water lily as well. In Egyptian mythology, in the beginning were the waters of chaos. Darkness covered the waters until the primeval water lily rose from the abyss. Slowly, the blue water lily opened its petals to reveal a young god sitting in its golden heart. A sweet perfume drifted across the waters, and light streamed from of this divine child to banish universal darkness. This child was the creator, the sun god, the source of all life. This is why in Christian art you see Jesus manifesting through or from a blue lily. He is equated with the blue lily of ancient Egyptian symbolism, and it is a symbol of rebirth and resurrection in Christian symbolism. So here in this alchemical miniature, we see Mary in this luminous egg or orb of light with the 12 stars above her, and Christ, Jesus, resurrecting as the blue lily from within her body, from within her vase. In ancient Egypt, it's Nefertiti, the god of perfume, who manifests from the blue lily. And in the same temple, the temple of Hathor at Dendera, we see the resurrected gods. Blue lotus craft, which of course symbolizes the wormhole. We see the resurrected king wearing the same crown of wisdom we've seen, the resurrection stick, the key of life, the feathered ascension throne, and the lotus craft. So in fact, the ancient Egyptian symbol is quite strikingly similar to the Tibetan tanka of Padmasambhava in the rainbow body. And it's also a fact that we can connect this with the ascension images of Jesus. He is in the portal, in the lotus craft or wormhole as the golden being emerging from the blue lotus or the blue lily. Keeping up with our interest in linking these ideas and this imagery to Tibetan Buddhism, we find that the Sakyamuni Buddha also holding the lily as a symbol of illumination and resurrection, and in fact, riding upon the blue lily as well. So that is the meaning in these Annunciation scenes of Gabriel, this celestial being manifesting before Mary. And we now know that the lily symbolizes the incarnation or the presence of Christ as a mediator between heaven and earth, as a bridge between heaven and earth. And that is the meaning we must understand or interpret as we look at all of these Annunciation images here that feature the blue lily symbolism. One of my favorites is John Van Eyck's Annunciation. This is in the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. Lots going on here, not the least of which is that spray of light that we see manifesting from the upper left-hand corner. We see Gabriel holding the resurrection stick, Mary, and also the lily, of course. So let's look at the details here where we see that the divine beam or spray of light manifesting. We see in the stained glass window, Jesus manifesting between a portal of blue light with two seraphim angels on top of him, also riding upon their Hot Wheels or their Red Wing wheels. And then we see the dove riding upon the spray or beam of divine light, entering again, as always, into the consciousness of Mary, possibly through the ear. And then again, we see Mary with her activated crown chakra, symbolized by the jewel on her crown. And we see Gabriel wearing the rainbow-colored wings, again, indicative, in my opinion, of Gabriel as a seraphim, as one of the beings who has the body of the rainbow light body, as described by the Tibetans, once again. And right beside Mary, we see a stool with lilies on the stool. And that, of course, as we've noted, symbolizes the incarnation of Christ. And on the pillow, on that stool, is a very peculiar symbol. It's actually the triple dot symbol of the Chintamanai, the wish-fulfilling jewel that the Tibetans say manifests the rainbow body of light. So a very interesting connection for John Van Eyck to make. The wish-fulfilling jewel is the Chintamanai. This is the Bodhisattva stone, the stone of manifestation. And I'm just going to show you a couple examples here of many that I've collected of not just Buddha holding the Chintamanai, or a Buddha or Bodhisattva with the Chintamanai, but actually Jesus holding a transparent crystal sphere with the triple dot symbol of the Chintamanai on it. We'll move on from that. We could take up a whole day just talking about the correspondence between Buddha and Jesus here with the Chintamanai. But let's get back to our Annunciation scenes, where here we've got, once again, Gabriel, of course, and Mary in Filippo Lippi's take on the Annunciation. This one was commissioned by the de Medicis in Florence, probably for the birth of Lorenzo de Medici. We see the divider line. We see our face full of lilies, symbolizing the unity of heaven and earth. We see these two beings from two separate celestial realms coming together once again. But what is so incredible about this depiction of the Annunciation is the energetic effect that Filippo Lippi has been able to achieve. We see the hand of God once again emerging from this other dimensional realm, from outside of our reality, opening this portal or gateway. And then we see Mary's illuminated consciousness. And what we're going to see here is absolutely incredible. We see that the dove of the Holy Spirit is actually riding upon this tube or funnel of light. It's clearly depicting, in my imagination, the idea of the opening of a portal or a hole in space-time, where you have this kind of corkscrewing tunnel or funnel out of which the cosmic vibration symbolized by the dove manifests. And then what we see is that dove, as it comes out of this portal, and here you can see the different layers of that portal, as it comes out of the portal, it spits this spray of divine light literally directly into the womb of Mary. So it's showing for us that the Annunciation is about this transmission of this cosmic light or vibration. Wonderfully expressive, wonderfully communicative of this idea that the Starchild is manifesting from another dimensional realm. The team at Portal to Ascension are loading our next presentation. So while they're doing that, I thought I'd cruise over here just for a moment and see if we can answer some questions or address any kind of comments in that. So let's see what we've got. Yeah, I like what Yashira said, that just because we're born in a human body doesn't mean we can automatically accept it. She's right. It takes many lifetimes of releasing all attachments. This is one of the key teachings of the Tibetans concerning the attainment of the rainbow body. They tell us that we spend lifetime after lifetime learning to manifest this light body, but they also tell us that it can be attained or achieved in one lifetime. And that's really kind of a remarkable thing to think about, because they suggest that there could be, in fact, be millions of people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are on the verge of manifesting the light body, of sprouting, if you will, of morphing from the caterpillar phase to the butterfly phase. And I really believe that that's absolutely true, that so many of us have been doing this lifetime after lifetime, and we're ready. And what we need more than anything, I believe, is perhaps not more teaching and more gurus. What we need is really the force of our imagination, the power of our imagination. If we can infuse it and instill it with these incredible images, they will guide us individually as well as collectively into a mass ascension, in my opinion. And this is one of the hopeful signs that I see in movies and in popular culture, is more and more examples of stargates and wormholes being used, but more importantly, of human transformation, and this idea that we are malleable, that we are not in a fixed state. My body, like your body, is not the same body that you lived in 1 year ago. And your body 1 year from now will not be the same body that you're presently sitting in. So that means we all have an opportunity to transform, to perfect, to improve, if you will, and alter our vibration. And we can do that today. We can begin today by making the choices that are more reflective of our attainment of wholeness or holiness. When we are at a higher level on the scale of wholeness, with wholeness being symbolized by a circle, and therefore the number 360 symbolizing wholeness or holiness or completion, we're all somewhere between 0 and 360. And at this moment, you are living a number. Maybe it's 180, maybe it's 240, maybe it's 320. Whatever the number is, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, you are doing things that are reflective of your belief that you are at that number. My suggestion to you would be to pick a higher number. If you're at, say, 310, then begin to imagine what you'll be doing differently, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, when you're at, say, 330. And then begin to do those things. And in this way, you will begin to raise your vibration from out of 310 all the way up to that higher number of 330 and beyond. So that's one way you can do it. Look at your life and what you're doing mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and begin to think about the new things that you would be doing and start doing those things. Okay. I'm pausing just for a moment here. My computer is suddenly just spinning on me. So I'm not sure if you're actually hearing me or not.
We can hear you, but your camera froze.
Camera, okay, thank you, Neil, very much. So we're loading the new presentation, and with luck, we'll be back on the road here in just a couple moments. Let me take a look at some of these other questions. I like what Susan said here, Susan Ramirez. She said, when Jesus said it is done, that's what he meant. It's already done in the center point of our awareness. Need to struggle or strive, just become aware. Your vibration was, in fact, it was intact the moment you were divinely created, because you are the divine witnessing self. I totally get that, Susan. That's the whole idea here, is that we're not seeking to become something. We're simply trying to reveal what we already are. You can think of our body as sort of a, like the orange prison jumpsuits the prisoners wear on the highway, picking up rubbish. We're talking about taking off robes here more than we are literally about putting new ones on. And that's an important distinction, because now it tells us that we don't have to go seeking this. We just simply have to be it, to allow it. What Francis of Assisi said really applies here. He said something like, what you are seeking is what is looking. Powerful, powerful idea that goes along with exactly what Susan was just saying. So great, here we go, guys. We have got our next presentation, part 3 of our presentation, up and running. Thank you, Neil, very much. It looks very good. The title of this section is Birth and Manifestation. So we've started by bringing into our awareness the idea of Jesus as the star child. And we saw the journey of the Magi and how they were in fact following not a star, but a star child. And we backed that up with the Annunciation that showed the Archangel Gabriel announcing to Mary the incarnation of this star child and connected it to ancient Egypt as well, or a similar idea in ancient Egypt. Now what we want to take a look at is concepts around the birth or manifestation of the star child. So here we go. Let's begin with another painting well known among in UFO circles, or ancient alien theorists as we're called on the TV show Ancient Aliens. And by the way, thank you all very much for watching that. I just wanted to let you know that we're getting ready to start season 9 of Ancient Aliens. I'll be going to Los Angeles on December 16th and 17th for interviews for the season. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So back to our painting here. This is the Madonna with child. It's got some very extraordinary things going on it, but very, very important symbolism for us to look at here. We see Mary with 2 children. One is John the Baptist and the other is Jesus. But what most gets our attention in this painting is the strange craft, if you will, seen over her left shoulder. UFO people automatically look at that and say spaceship, flying saucer, UFO. But the problem is that it is not unidentified, this flying object. It is identified. The Bible tells us exactly what is going on here. It is the arrival of the watcher angel and the star child. So let's follow this through here and see what we see. Mary with her luminous halo once again, the floating craft, luminous. And in the lower right-hand corner, we see a shepherd with his hand up in a dog. He's not just a shepherd, he's actually a watcher who has been watching for the appearance of this luminous, not craft, but actually a tear in the fabric of space-time. This goes along with the art that we were looking at a moment ago, that this idea developed among the Essenes and their Gnostic counterparts that Christ came from another dimensional realm and entered into our sphere of consciousness through a hole in heaven or a hole in space-time. That's exactly what we are seeing here. And in my view, this shepherd or this watcher didn't randomly come across this scene. He knew to be looking for this manifestation of this stellar event. This is the painting that more than other, as I said, has sparked discussions among ufologists who see this as some kind of a flying saucer. And this shepherd is looking in the sky at this, what is described as an apparition. And there's his dog who's also looking at this strange object with him. Danielle Bedini is the one who really started the conversation on this, and she says that we clearly see the presence of an airborne object, leaden in color and inclined to port, sporting a dome or turret, apparently identifiable as an oval-shaped moving flying vehicle, like this. And again, I'm slightly open to that possibility, but not really. And the reason why is because what most UFO investigators don't do is go to the Bible to read what the Bible says is actually happening at this moment. But this isn't the only peculiarity of the painting. For example, to the upper left, we see the nativity star with 3 other small stars or perhaps flames emanating from it. These stars and flames are similar to what we see on the cloak of Mary in these nativity scenes, particularly this one by Botticelli, where she's got the star cloak on and the same flames, indicating that she's of the same vibration as this stellar phenomena. She is wearing this lighter vibration on her body. And here's what the Bible says is actually happening in this scene. And there were, in the same country, shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. So these are actually watchers. These are the watcher angels, in fact, who are anticipating the arrival of this divine being coming from the celestial realms. And lo, an angel of the Lord came upon them. Remember, the watchers are called the angels of the Lord. So this is actually the descent of a watcher being. And lo, an angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone around about them. So this is what we're seeing here, is the arrival of this watcher angel, the opening in this hole in space-time, and the glory, the glorious, radiant, divine, otherworldly light, celestial light of the Lord shining around them. And these watchers, or the people that are accompanying them, were afraid, we're led to believe. And the angel said unto them, Fear ye not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For on this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. So this is in fact the announcement to the shepherds of the arrival of the star child. The watcher shepherds have been watching for this. They're looking for the angel and the star child to come out from the cloud, or from the cloud. And we can see that this scene is exactly the same as what we saw a moment ago. So here's our watcher angel looking up into the higher dimensional realm, maybe shielding his eyes, but also indicating that he can see into this other dimensional realm and perceive this higher vibrational light. And the angel, the watcher angel, manifests from heaven in the earth plane through this light tear or hole in heaven. Another nativity scene, this time by Ghirlandaio, shows the similar light phenomena, the watchers, but it also keys us into the appearance in these nativity scenes of strange symbolism that's not mentioned in the Bible. That symbolism doesn't just have to do with the stellar phenomena, it's the appearance of this bull and the donkey. Why do you always see the bull and the donkey in these nativity scenes? Well, the answer is they symbolize two pagan religions that are going to be superseded by the appearance of the Christ avatar. The bull symbolizes Mithra, and the ass or the donkey actually symbolizes, according to the Metamorphosis of Apuleius, it symbolizes Isis. So what we're actually describing here, or talking about when we see the manifestation of these celestial beings and the donkey and the bull, is that they are present to tell us that this celestial event, this disclosure, if you will, this cosmic disclosure of this, the advent of the celestial being, will introduce a new era that will supplant or perhaps replace even the old time religions. But the fact of the matter is that the new religion, the new revelation brought by the star child can only be understood through the stair steps of the old time religions, the religion of Isis in particular, as well as Mithras. Christianity is the Egyptian religion, as my Egyptian guides told me long ago. It's the Egyptian religion with the names updated and the concepts changed slightly as well as updated. So here in this nativity, now we see the Christ child, the star child, is manifested on the earth plane. Luminous halo indicates he's come in fully illuminated. It was a highly anticipated event. And these are just a few examples from dozens of paintings of the Nativity, in which they all have this same theme, this otherworldly angel, the shepherds, the watchers, the beam of light, the donkey or the ass and the bull, all indicating that this is a powerful celestial event, the arrival, accompanied by this glorious light of the star child. It's a very powerful line of research to pursue, especially in light that what we're talking about here is not the arrival of a tin can spaceship, but rather a hole in space-time and the emergence of a divine light that showers all potentially with the light and the glory of God. Here in this nativity by Ghirlandaio, we see the bright star in the upper left. We have an angel inside the cloud manifesting, another angel manifesting or appearing before the shepherd. So let's take a look at this, because this one's very interesting. It's instructive and informative about the actual nature of these watcher angels once again. So here we have the watchers, the shepherds, who are obviously illuminated beings, mystics in their own right. They're probably Magi. And they are perceiving up here in the top middle this luminous cloud with this bright, fiery red angel inside of it. You can see this swirling mass of light and energy. It's like a vortex. It's an opening, clearly, of some kind of a portal with this kind of undifferentiated but still humanoid, but red, luminous, fiery angel inside the portal. It's clear that the luminous cloud is the method of transport of these angels, and one of these clouds appeared at the birth of Jesus, and this was anticipated by the Essenes as well as the Watchers. The Bible passage that describes this event continues saying, "Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, 'Glory to God in the highest heaven,'" which is the realm beyond our realm, "and on earth peace to those on whom this favor rests." What they're saying is a great company, a multitude of angels, watchers, poured through this cloud gate or conduit at the emergence, along with the arrival of the Starchild, and bringing with it this light from another realm. These luminous red-winged angels that we're talking about are, as I've said, the seraphim, the burning ones, the winged serpents, the fiery serpents who have had a hand in human affairs for a very long time. They've interceded on behalf of humanity, and in most instances, their intercession has to do with the opening of portals or gateways, or sometimes the closing of those gates into the celestial realms. Here's one of the burning ones, the fiery winged serpents, the seraphim, the red-winged ones, guarding the gate of the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve were evicted from the Garden of Eden. The Archangel Michael wears the burning wings with the peacock feathers all over it, indicating that he, of course, is a seraphim. They are the guardians of the throne of Christ, and they are the beings that accompany the manifestation of the Starchild. This is a photo I took in Venice, Italy, in the chapel in San Marco, where we see Christ enthroned with the red-winged seraph on either side of him. He wears his luminous garment of light because he's in the heavenly realms. Also, is highly reminiscent of a portal. Look at the stars in that gateway. Can you say Stargate? Exactly. So as we look at this here, we start to find more and more intriguing examples of the seraphim, the red-winged seraphim, accompanying Christ on his manifestation of the Starchild on the earth plane. This is another excellent example where we see the luminous Jesus enthroned, holding the resurrection stick, got the blue portal, radiant gateway of light open, being held open by the red-winged seraphim. These aren't your Hallmark card angels. They may look like that to some degree, but they're not. They are beings of pure light, pure love, super fast-moving, higher vibrational beings. And in fact, this is the form in which the resurrected Jesus manifested before St. Francis of Assisi in the 13th century, when he beamed to Francis of Assisi the wounds of the stigmata wounds of the crucifixion, the 5 wounds of the crucifixion. Afterwards, after receiving this transmission on beams of light that went into his body, Francis ascended and is now considered to be the second Christ. That's what his biographers say. It's an extraordinary story. We don't have time to go into it right now, but I just want to show you that this red-winged seraphim form is the form that these resurrected beings take on. And this is why you would see the resurrected Jesus manifesting to St. Francis of Assisi as a seraph, as a luminous being of pure light and pure. I have made the connection between the luminous body of the seraphim and the rainbow light body. I believe that they're interchangeable, and that these resurrected beings can manifest in the rainbow body form or as the burning ones of the seraphim. And this is exactly what we see in these paintings of the Nativity. We see, as we noted a moment ago, in in the right-hand side above the sheep out in the pasture, we see the red-winged seraphim being, and on the left, we see an opening or a hole opening in heaven with an angel inside that opening as well. And in this case, Gurandalio has created another one of these incredible kind of saucer-shaped clouds, hinting to some that the possibility that this is some kind of a UFO event. But it's beyond that, as I keep repeating. It goes beyond that technology. This is a spiritual technology that we're describing. The only issue that I have with, in large part with ufologists who look at this, is that they will look at images such as this and say there is nothing spiritual going on here. This is all Pleiadians and beam ships or Syrians in hardware spacecraft, and I fundamentally disagree with that. I think instead it's all spiritual, and we're talking about an advanced level of consciousness that we're trying to reach. And these images from the Renaissance and other periods are examples of how individuals in the past have visualized these portals or these openings in space-time that are guarded by the seraphim. Look around the center of this portal here. We see it's ringed by the 4 seraphim that are on each side. This, of course, is the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Turkey. The dome of the Hagia Sophia is thought to mimic the dome of Solomon's Temple, which was also considered to be a portal or gate in celestial realm. So I'm pointing this out as an example of how this tradition continues into the modern era, here manifesting in the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. And again, we invite you to join us in April for our tour of Stargate Turkey, when we will be visiting the Hagia Sophia among other Ascension domes. Look at this nativity story and pick up another thought from the Gospel of Luke, where the story continues. Luke says that when the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby, who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, this star child, and all who heard it were shepherds said to them. Well, I'll bet, because the shepherds are the watchers, they're the Magi, and they're trying to communicate to the people that we have just seen the advent, the appearance of a being from a celestial realm beyond this reality, beyond our imagination. And again, I believe that we are on the verge of re-experiencing a similar moment in our time, hence the reason why we want to study this and understand the story correctly. So a couple of more nativity scenes here where we see the luminous star child now not up in the heavens, not in the sky, now earthbound, having taken physical manifestation. And as usual, we see a similar collection of images. We see 2 clouds of luminous blue spheres, blue beings, blue angel beings. Beneath them, we see our ass and bull, symbolic of the old-time religions, and we see Mary and Joseph on either side of their luminous star child. And then up in the left-hand corner, let me just go back, you can see the left-hand corner there is where, as usual, we see our watcher angel manifesting from this hole in space-time through this Stargate or wormhole. The watcher is, of course, the escort, in all likelihood, of the star child. Another nativity scene with the similar motif. We see going back, we see the luminous star child, Mary, Joseph, the ass, and the bull. And above them, we see the angels who are gathered above, floating on their clouds. Again, symbolic of these are mystical beings from a higher dimensional realm. One of them, on the left-hand side, just above Mary's head, is a favorite, beaming us energy, and we can in fact connect with those luminous beings by just simply beaming back to them light and love. So it's a nice way to make a brief connection with these beings. Another one, Gabriele Fabriano's Adoration of the Magi, quite elaborate, very luxurious looking, with Christ overseeing the whole thing, with the red-winged seraph above him. They're always present because the watcher angels are conducting this entire plan of the manifestation of the star child. So here, just above Jesus' head, you see the luminous seraphim, the red-winged seraphim, Jesus offering us a blessing, and the Magi who are kneeling before this luminous child. Look above the head of Mary, wearing the blue robe on the left. You've got Joseph, and then above Joseph's head, here comes the advent of the star child, the celestial child, in the beautiful golden orb of light. Then finally, manifesting on the earth plane, got the ass and bull. By now, you're becoming more expert than most at being able to read these nativity scenes and pick out the players, where you've got the Magi in their golden garments, offering the gold and frankincense and myrrh, the sacred oils that will all play an important role ultimately in the ascension of Jesus. And you see the Magi down here in the center, who's kissing the feet of the star child, who's fully illuminated, of course. Another detail there again of the golden orb of the star child. Mary Magdalene behind the Virgin Mary here, shown opening her alabaster jar, prefiguring the role that she will also play in the ascension of the star child. And here we see the detail of the Magi kissing the feet of the royal star child. The theme of the shining cosmic child born in a cave actually originated around 1380 in a vision of Saint Bridget, who said that while she was in prayer, move in Mary's womb, and then of a sudden I saw this glorious infant lying on the earth, naked and shining. His most delicate flesh was pure from any kind of soil or impurity. And so this is another source for this imagery, is that this is a vision of Saint Bridget, who saw the shining cosmic child. And in such imagery, the child is conceived almost as a star come to earth. That's because, as we've been saying, this is a star being come to earth from another dimension. And that's what, again, Lorenzo Monaco is trying to convey here. We've got Mary bowing before the star child. And look above Mary's head. We find the same cloud over her. The angel comes out of the familiar hole in space-time, the rip in the fabric of space-time, to make the announcement to the shepherds. So here's Mary with this luminous cloud above her, indicating the arrival of the celestial star child, and then the watcher angel, as usual, bursting out of this hole in space. And you've got this shepherd here who's not shielding his eyes like this partner. He's actually got his heart wide open to receive this cosmic vibration from the watcher angel. I mean, you can just about feel that lighter vibration coming into your own heart center, your own heart chakra, as you engage this image. The ass and the bull, almost always present in these nativity scenes. And finally, the luminous star child coming from this other dimension to bring this message of light and love to our world, to show us the way towards the next step in human evolution. Homo luminous is one term given to the next step. The luminous human, the star being, the ultra human. Virtually every tradition has a name for this next level of human manifestation. And Jesus the Star Child was one of the original manifestors of this next human, of this next step in evolution. Another nativity scene, they get kind of redundant after a while, but they're still fun to explore. In this one, in the very center, coming to the top, we see this beam of light coming down from the celestial realms. This is indicating, as usual, the manifestation not just of the watcher, but also of the star child manifesting through the Stargate. And it goes on and on. But I personally just love connecting with these images and the sense of wonder and awe that accompanies them. This idea that what we're witnessing here is our visualizations of ancient disclosure, of an event that happened 2,000 years ago that is still reverberating in our time, and we are only now just beginning to gain full understanding of. We're understanding the quantum realm of other dimensions of Stargate travel, wormhole travel, human transformation into celestial beings. We're in the process technologically, as I wrote in my book, The Singularity is Near, of literally dematerializing ourselves into light beings and living for eternity in a simulated reality on a computer parked in Mountain View, California. I mean, what we're seeing here is not that far away from that same impetus. It's all about humans gaining understanding that we are cosmic explorers, that we're temporarily inhabiting this realm, the earth plane, but ultimately we are called to the stars. And Jesus is a manifestation of a group of celestial beings, the angels of the Lord, the watchers, who came here on a mission to show us how to return to the stars. And I'm all for that. And that's what drives me to collect these images, to analyze them, to try to understand and to communicate to you and with you the vital importance of these lost stories of the Starchild, because this is completely different from traditional Christianity. And we can only imagine how different our world would be if we had spent the past couple of thousand years having a conversation about celestial beings, star beings, the manifestation of the Starchild, and how we can transfigure or metamorphose our own divine spark and reclaim our original celestial selves. This is what this is all about for me, is remembering who we are. As I said earlier, it's not just about telling a beautiful story about the star child Jesus. It's about recognizing that his story is our story. This is our divine spark that we are witnessing coming into this realm, struggling, going through all of the challenges of earth life, our own crucifixions, sometimes on a daily basis. And the story is so vital because it tells us that after those challenges, after the crucifixions, comes resurrection and ascension. And that's what this artwork is designed to do, is to trigger our imagination, to help us to connect with that divine light, to raise our vibration. In so doing, help us to scale the higher vibrations of the ladder or stairway to heaven. One person, Philip O'Lippy, I mean, golly, talk about connecting his imagination with that divine realm. I can't think of anybody who did it better than he did. Let's take a walk through his adoration of the child, this nativity scene, where we see the dove of the Holy Spirit spraying us with this cosmic vibration, this other dimensional light that's just crackling in its luminosity. We see Mary kneeling in reverence before the star child. John the Baptist is on her right, Jesus's cousin, his Essene cousin, and ultimately his initiator. But in the detail here, look how Philip O'Lippy shows the light just kind of stepping down into our world. It's released and protected by the angels up at the top. The dove sprays this cosmic vibration onto the earth plane. And it's our consciousness that is being imbued or saturated with this light now. And as we follow it, we see that Mary illuminating this cosmic light or vibration. Lippy, also including John the Baptist, even more dramatically, in my opinion, conveys this idea of the conduit or a gateway filled with stars. This is a stargate, the openings in heaven out of this divine light emerges. That or divine light, and certainly is one of the key forces that ultimately creates the transmutation of Jesus's body into light. So look at how he just conveys this idea of the beam and the power of this light or vibration coming into our world. Again, it's practically palpable. And now he wraps the baby star child in a transparent linen garment, foreshadowing or prefiguring his ultimate resurrection and ascension as symbolized by the linen Shroud of Turin. So very, very detailed bit of imagery here coming from Filippo Lippi. A couple more examples, and then we'll move on to the next section of our presentation. This is Botticelli's take on it. During the Renaissance, they were trying to convey this idea, a new notion, came from the Corpus Hermeticum, an adage or law. As above, so below was the adage. And these painters came to believe that their paintings were communication links between the above and the below, that these paintings were magically active, that by engaging them mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, we are able to participate in the energy or vibration being portrayed in the painting. This is called theurgy, divine magic or alchemy, using tones, lights, and plants to connect with the divine realm. And so this is why you see these painters like Botticelli and Filippo Lippi and others trying to convey this idea of bringing the above to the below. Same thing the ancient Egyptians were conveying in their temple imagery as well. So it's really powerful stuff here that they're telling us here and showing us, is that we, through our imagination, can connect with the divine realms, bring a star child to life in our realm, in ourselves, that we in fact are guided by the watcher angels, that we too came from an other dimensional realm, that we are in fact pilgrims wandering around in this land, and that we all came here to experience our birth, our baptism, our transfiguration, our crucifixions, our resurrection, and ultimately our ascension. And that was the mission of the Star Child, was to show us how we too can follow that path, ladder, or stairway to heaven. So again, just a couple more images before we close this section, but a comment, and that is that the entire mystery of Christianity hangs on the fact that Jesus entered our world from another celestial realm as a star child and took upon himself a human body of flesh and blood. We're talking about Jesus as a celestial being, Jesus, star child. This is why he is shown sheathed in these rays of light. His birth was a cosmic event. It was a moment of disclosure directed and performed by the Essenes, who drew upon the same magic and astronomy as the Magi, but in fact were being directed by the watcher angels. To me, Jesus appears to be a sort of a Tulku. The Magi knew to look for him. The Tulku are these reincarnating bodhisattvas who appear again and again on the same message, or with the same message of divine light and love, and raising all to a higher level of vibration, so that all will ultimately leave the earth before the Tulkus do. The doctrine of Tulku is in Tibetan Buddhist thought, very closely parallels what the doctrine of Avatara is in Hindu Brahmanism. Tulkus will send a ray from himself or send a part of himself to take incarnation or embodiment, even if it's only temporary. This is exactly what I have shown you in this artwork, is that he is sent a ray, a part of himself, into physical incarnation to show us how to ascend and return to the celestial realms. As a Tulku, Jesus would have been shown his sacred relics, and he would have remembered them. And I will show you those relics in the next section. But before we leave, let's just take a look at a couple more examples of the physical manifestation of the Star Child, Jesus, sitting on the throne with his mother, Mary, with the seraphim on either side. That throne that they are sitting is called the throne of, and it is, as a matter of fact, innermost esoteric sense. The two cherubim that sit on top of the ark's golden mercy seat, who formed an arch between them through which the Israelite God Yahweh would appear, are the same two angels that we see manifesting on either side of the throne of Christ, the throne of Jesus upon which Mary and Jesus now sit. It's little known in Christianity that the Ark of the Covenant was known and used by Jesus. And we will explore that section, which has to do with how the disclosure event that many anticipate and the second coming that many anticipate, are actually intertwined. So that concludes this section. It's now 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's take a 10-minute break, a big 10-minute break, because we're going to get back, when we get back, we're going to get into some really incredible information about what is going on in our world right now as concerns the return of the Starchild. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much for watching this section here. I'll look forward to sharing the final section with you in just a few moments. Thank you very much. Okay, everybody, welcome back, and thank you again for joining us. And want to give a big thank you to Neil and everybody at Portal to Ascension. It's been a wonderful experience getting to connect with you in this way. I hope you've enjoyed what we've presented so far. The final section that we're going to look at has to do with what Christianity refers to as the second coming, and what modern UFO people describe as the disclosure. And we're going to see how those two events are actually in fact driving many of the current events in our world today. And by examining the artwork once again of the return of the Starchild Jesus, we're going to get some insight into what could be missing in our world that we need to bring into our consciousness that will help us to transcend our current challenges and difficulties and turn these into an incredible, incredible opportunity. So we've just got a couple of minutes as we load the final program together. So I'm going to take a look over here at the comments section, see if there's anything that I can address while we're waiting for the program to load. And I'll see if anything just pops out here. Oh, thank you, Susan. I'm loving this webinar. I really appreciate that. It's very, very nice. Love Ancient Aliens. Yeah, me too. I don't have a discussion group on Facebook. I'd like to start something like that. You know, I just got home on Tuesday from over 45 days, almost continuously on the road. I've been home 2 days, or three, I slept in our bed 2 nights in the past 45 nights. And it's kind of hard when you're running and gunning like that. We were doing a tour of Egypt, which was absolutely phenomenal. Can't wait to return to Egypt in late October 2016. It's so peaceful there. I mean, I just can't believe the bad rap that Egypt has been getting from people in the media. And it's kind of coming back around to haunt America in a way, because it's primarily in the American media that's saying stay out of Egypt. And when in fact America is far more dangerous than Egypt. And it's quite alarming, in fact, what has happened in terms of the elevation of violence in America just in the past year or two. So my point is that in terms of discussion groups, it's kind of hard for me to commit to be able to be there all the time. I had a radio program, Revelations, on unknowncountry.com, and I had a good rhythm of doing those on a weekly basis, but then the travel just got to be too intense. That aside, but who knows, maybe 2016 will see a calming down, and that I'll be able to engage in a more of a constructive discussion or a discussion forum, because I sure do enjoy it. My favorite thing in presenting this material is being able to connect with people, and I mean, there's so many of you out there that have such incredible knowledge and experiences to share, and if I can anyway be a catalyst or a conduit for sharing of that knowledge and that experience, I am absolutely all for that. And so I thank you for that suggestion about the discussion group and see if maybe I can do that. So we're just about there in terms of our loading the program. So let me just take a quick look over here again and see if I can see anything else that pops out. Yeah, here's, yeah, I like that comment. Again, it's Susan saying, we are learning to love our enemies for our ascension. Wow, that is such a big lesson right now. I mean, we're to love our neighbor as ourselves because we are all one. That is part of the Stargate Metaphysics that you find in the New Testament. It's basic Christianity, right? But it's basic universal law. And that's a good kind of introduction to what we're going to be talking about in this last segment here, because ultimately there is no way that, in my opinion, that the second coming event is described, the disclosure event we all hope for. There's no way that that is going to happen as long as humans are engaged in an Armageddon type of scenario. I just don't see it as a possibility. The only way we're going to be able to bring in the ultimate disclosure that we want and experience the ascension that we want is for masses of people to find their heart, to open the heart and become higher beings of light and love. It sounds simplistic, but that's the message that comes up over and over again. So great. Now we've got our final section loaded. The title of this presentation, this section of the presentation, is called The Return and the Throne. So let's get into this now, because what we're going to talk about in this section is the return of the Starchild and the ultimate promise of the return of the Starchild. I want to begin with a fragment from the Dead Sea Scrolls that we mentioned earlier. This was the song of the Archangel Michael, or by the Archangel Michael, in which he promised the Essenes that they would take a seat among those perfect forever, a mighty throne in the congregation of the gods. This is a goal of the Essene movement, was to transform ourselves as humans into angels or celestial beings so that we could ascend and claim our seat or our personal throne amongst the congregation of the gods, other angels, and just humans made perfect, as the book of Hebrews describes them. Goes on to say, for I have taken my seat in the congregation of the heavens, and none find fault with me. I shall be reckoned with the gods and established in the holy congregation. That's the goal right there, to become one of these watcher angels, perhaps again, and to take our seat at our throne. So the question then is, when they're going to be reckoned with the gods and they have taken their throne and been given this throne, how will they know when they have heard the song, so to speak, of the Archangel Michael? And when they ultimately have that throne, how will we be able to identify the throne of the Starchild? Well, the answer comes from my investigation into Russian Last Judgment art from the 14th century. Kind of obscure, well, okay, very obscure, kind of oddball, very oddball, showing the scene of Last Judgment, which is the second coming of Christ. What we see here is a sort of a layer cake of the universe. We see at the bottom of the image an earthly scene with this serpent snaking its way up a sort of invisible cosmic axis, finally making its way up into the throne of Christ. So here's all these blessed figures here, these saints and illuminated ones, getting ready to go through this golden gate guarded by the seraphim, the burning ones, the red-winged seraphim, the watcher angels. They're watching for these figures so that they can open the gate for them. And then here is this serpent snaking its way up this invisible cosmic axis, going all the way up into this cloud where we find the throne of Christ, where in fact we see the resurrected Christ as a luminous humanoid figure riding upon a blue sphere. He is shown here traveling through the cosmos on this blue sphere, and right beneath him are two angels, assuredly watcher angels again, who are guarding or protecting some kind of a device or an object. So here's the detail here of the Starchild in the luminous bubble on the blue sphere. As I was first introduced to it, it just had such just strange imagery that it just compelled me to dive into it. It immediately reminded me of Tibetan images that show the path of ascension, the path of the Milky Way, in fact. And this is what we see on the right. It's called the path of calm abiding. And what we see is this white pathway snaking its way up from the earth plane up into the cosmic realms, where we see a rainbow bridge manifest with pink elephants coming and going across this rainbow bridge and entering into the pure land of the Buddhas, this other dimensional realm out of which the Buddhas manifested. When I put these images together, I said, wow, okay, I think they're telling the same story. I started to the judgment images, and I was led to the work of Dr. David Goldfrank at the University of Maryland. And he was the only scholar that I could find that was making a commentary on the Russian Last Judgment images. In fact, what he said is that you see on the serpent there that it's got those lines going across the serpent. There's usually 19 or 21 of those, he said. And what they represent are, in his words, cosmic toll booths. This represents the path of the soul going through these various cosmic toll booths until it reaches the throne of Christ. Well, I, of course, said cosmic toll booth. How about Stargate? You're talking about the serpent here, this snaking pathway representing a path of souls, a snaking path or conduit of stargates that links Earth with the celestial realm where the Starchild emerged. And he didn't know, he couldn't account for a source for this strange Russian imagery. And I popped up and said, well, I think it comes from the Tibetans. It's obvious the parallels that we're seeing here. The snaking pathway symbolizes the conduit of the cosmic toll booths. As we see the elephants ascending this pathway, they turn from gray to pink or white, meaning they become purified. They are going along this path of ascension, becoming ascended beings or purified beings, so now that they can come and go as they please across the rainbow bridge, linking Earth with the celestial realms. This is what the bodhisattvas and the rainbow body beings can do. They can take on physical manifestation anytime they wish. And I believe that this is the source of that Russian Last Judgment imagery, and it's showing us the Christian version of this snaking path of souls, of stargates that links Earth with these higher dimensional realms. In this example, you clearly see the layer cake effect. We're down on the Earth plane. We see the serpent beginning its journey, and it goes up 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers into the higher dimensional realms. As usual, you've got the bishops and the saints and so forth making a pathway through this gateway, guarded as always by the watchers, the red-winged seraphs or seraphim. And you also have the snake making its way, the conduit, up into the higher dimensional realms. And as usual, you've got this strange device, always present in these Last Judgment images or images of the second coming. And then ultimately up on top, you've got Jesus Starchild on his rainbow throne with his red-wing Hot Wheels in his concentric ring, symbolizing the portal or the gateway. You've got Adam and Eve and John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene, or Mary, opening up this portal or gateway. And what we're seeing here is the arrival of the cosmic Christ, the emergence, the descent, if you will, of Jesus the Starchild. Because this cosmic conduit goes 2 ways. It goes up And it's a way for the beings to come down. And as we see here, the serpent snakes its way up this invisible cosmic axis, going through that strange device, up to the top where you've got Christ on his throne. And above him, look at that strip of stars that the angels have unfurled. This is a scroll of stars. It's like they're unfolding this wholly other, practically unimaginable reality that is above and beyond the throne of Christ. Very powerful, very evocative imagery. So I'm going to touch as quickly as I can here of why we should be so intrigued by this imagery. And I will do this by quickly going through a few more of these images where you see the repetition of the same symbols, the golden gate, guarded by the seraphim, the serpent, and of course our device that is guarded or watched by these angels, that is topped by this orb with Christ sitting enthroned with his feet on a footstool surrounded by stars. If we can't see or say Stargate in these images, sure, I don't know what is going to trigger that. That's what we're describing here, is the enthroned Starchild on his Stargate amidst several other beings also in similar orbs or power spheres. So let's talk specifically now about what that throne is, because as I'm going to tell you here, it has everything to do with current events, especially emerging from the Middle East, because that device that we were looking at has a name. It is called the Etymachia, or throne of the second coming. The word etymachia is Greek from the verb hetomason, which means to prepare or preparation. What this means is that before the Starchild descends to Earth, there is a preparation that unfolds in anticipation of that event. As part of that preparation is the assembly of his throne, a device upon which the Starchild will manifest at the time of the second coming. Etymachia, again, means to prepare or preparation. In Christian end-time art, this throne, which again is the object of the Essene's quest, and the teaching of the Watchers was to go from living on earth to living in the heavenly realms and having your own throne. This is the throne, the Etymachia. It's most often composed of a cross, which is an instrument of transmutation that converts flesh or mass into light, spirit, or energy, a spear, often referred to as the spear of destiny, a sponge, a scroll or a book, which represents the heavenly tablets of Ascension, the Book of Light, the Book of Seven Seals, and the Book of Love, a robe of light, which is also the same as the Shroud of Turin, and a jar containing sacred oil. Additionally, it includes the Ark of the Covenant. Now, in the spring of 2015, when Claire and I led the tour to Italy, I had everybody over to a place called St. Paul behind the Walls in Rome. This is where they believe Paul is buried. I took them there because I wanted to show them this scene in this incredible oculus in the ceiling where we see the enthroned Christ, but what is more important is what we see beneath him, which is the Etymachia, the throne of the second coming, watched or guarded by these angels. We see the cross attached to a platform that I'm going to tell you is the Ark of the Covenant, with a robe of light, a book, the rod and sponge, and the spear, and so forth. This is a kit of tools. It's a kit of ascension tools that will be assembled at the time of the return of Jesus the Starchild. This is vital for us to understand at this particular time in history, because there's about 1 billion people on this planet today. that are anticipating the recovery of the Ark of the Covenant, which is one of the key components of the throne of the Starchild. When most people think of the Ark of the Covenant, they're thinking of that simple golden box made by Moses at the base of the mystical Mount Sinai to house the Ten Commandments. What most are unaware of or have forgotten is that the Ark also housed the rod of Aaron, or enlightenment, the scepter of God, the resurrection stick, the flask of manna, and the cruse of sacred oil. And when you assemble all of those components that are contained within the Ark of the Covenant, when you assemble the Ark of the Covenant, in other words, you get the Adamastia throne. This is important because while Christians seek signs for Jesus' second coming and Jews await the Messiah, about 1 billion Muslims are awaiting the arrival of the 12th Imam, called the Mahdi. And all three of these figures, the returning Christ, the Messiah of Judaism, and the Mahdi of Islam, are symbolized by the same device, the Ark of the Covenant. Typically thought of, again, as a golden rectangular box made by Moses, it's actually something far more powerful than that. The complete device is, in fact, the Adamastia throne of Christ. Initiates like Moses, Jesus, and probably Muhammad were highly trained initiates who had achieved advanced spiritual consciousness well beyond the average human and had assembled this complete device. Now, some people don't like to talk about the prophetic underpinnings of our current events. And they don't want to believe that a search for the Ark of the Covenant is unfolding worldwide right now, and that it is part of the disclosure of the reality of extraterrestrial visitors to Earth, especially higher dimensional beings coming from the angelic realm. But that is the fact of what is happening in the Middle East today. I'll quote Joel Rosenberg. He's one of your kind of very conservative commentators on this, but extremely knowledgeable and just a bit scary. And I'd like to put just a bit scary in here, not just for effect, but because this is the reality that we are living in right now. It is what is driving our reality. Says Rosenberg, there is a dramatic shift underway in the Muslim world. The most serious threat we face in the Middle East and North Africa is no longer radical Islam, but apocalyptic Islam. We face not just one, but two regional regimes whose rulers are driven not merely by violent political ideology or by extremist theology, but by apocalyptic genocidal eschatology or end times theology. The first is the Islamic Republic of Iran. The second is the Islamic State or ISIS. The leaders of the former are Shia Muslims, the latter are Sunni. Both believe that we are living in the end of days as predicted in their ancient prophecies. Both believe that any moment now their Messiah, the Mahdi, will be revealed on earth as he establishes his global Islamic kingdom and impose Sharia law. Both believe that Jesus will return not as the Savior of God, but as a lieutenant to the Mahdi, and that he will force non-Muslims to convert or die. What's more, both believe that the Mahdi will come only when the world is engulfed in chaos and carnage. And this is the point of what groups like ISIS and others are trying to inflict on the world right now. They believe they can accelerate the return of this figure by creating chaos, hence their mission. But the only way that they will know when the Mahdi returns is because he will be identified by his symbol, the Ark of the Covenant, which is the same symbol or device as the Jewish Messiah and also the returning Christ. Says Rosenberg, Iranian and ISIS leaders are not alone in their fascination with end times matters. Such interest runs deep through the Muslim world. According to a 2012 report by the Pew Research Center, in most countries in the Middle East and North Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia, most Muslims believe they will live to see the return of the Mahdi. In Egypt, 40% of Muslims believe expect to see the Mahdi in their lifetime. In Jordan, it's 41%. Among Palestinians, 46%. In Iraq, a stunning 72%. You've got 1 billion people out there who believe that the Ark of the Covenant is about to be revealed in our world, and that the Mahdi, the Islamic Messiah, will be the one to reveal it. You've got about 1 billion Christians who believe in the second coming of Christ. They don't really, for the most part, realize that there is a throne that must be assembled in anticipation of the arrival of this figure, and that that throne is the same as the symbol of the Islamic Messiah, the Mahdi. They also don't realize that the Jewish Ark of the Covenant is the same as this throne and also the symbol of the Mahdi. It is so stark about how kind of clueless most of us are about this, but how important it is at the same time for us to recognize what it is that we're talking about here with the Ark of the Covenant. At the same time as we have billions of people believing in this end time scenario, you've got, as I documented in my book, The Singularity is Near, a group in Silicon Valley who are actively fulfilling the biblical prophecy of the emergence of the next by meshing our flesh with technology and creating an immortal being who is more a being of light than he is a being of flesh. Think about the contrast in our world right now, where you've got billions of people, many who don't even have a toilet, let alone a cell phone, believe in the arrival of this Messiah who will wield the Ark of the Covenant, contrasted with this super advanced technology coming out of Silicon Valley. They seem like they're poles apart, right? But they're not. They're part of the same ultimate event. Call it disclosure, call it the second coming, call it whatever you want, that is now manifesting on our planet. What I want to talk about for a brief moment here is that one way to navigate through this scenario has got to be a full understanding of what the Ark of the Covenant is. I mean, if you got billions of people that believe this symbol, this device is about to be revealed and has to be revealed in order for their Messiah, Mahdi, or Christ to be present in our world, then we got to know, well, what is this thing? What is it? It's interesting, isn't it, that the word Isis is the Egyptian word for throne. And it makes me wonder about these ISIS terrorists and how much they really know about the Mahdi that they're fighting for in the Ark of the Covenant, because surely they would realize that a murderer or someone who promotes mass murder will never get to be a person who will be able to get anywhere near the real Ark of the Covenant. They might find a golden box somewhere that might have some radioactive energy about it or something, and could be construed as a weapon as described in the Old Testament, but they will never, in my opinion, get close to the real thing, which is the true celestial throne that is brought and protected by the Watchers, and according to some interpreters was actually taken from by the Watcher angels. So let's get into this here for our own education to see how the Ark of the Covenant will play its role in the disclosure event and also the second coming of the Starchild. This is an Ethiopian depiction of the full throne of Christ with the Ark platform, the robe of golden light, the book, the cross attached. And as you can see, it's guarded by the seraphim angels. This is because the artist must have known that the Ark of the Covenant was brought to earth by the seraphim and is guarded and protected by these watcher angels. In Hebrew, seraphim is a combination of the words healer, meaning and doctor and surgeon, and ser, meaning higher being or guardian angel. The ser prefix also connects him with the serpent, especially the serpent of healing, as in the Nehushtan, which is the symbol of the serpent lifted on a pole, lifted by Moses in the wilderness to bring healing to the Israelites. The Nehushtan is literally the logo of the seraphim. It is a device that was brought by the seraphim. It is also a device that manifests the watcher angels on earth. All we have to do is take the Nehushtan and put it on top of the Ark of the Covenant, and you've got the complete throne of Christ and the logo of the seraphim angels, or the watchers. It's found in ancient Egypt as well, as I've demonstrated in several of my works, where you see what is called the head of Osiris, the hieroglyph of the head of Osiris in the upper left, a serpent on a pole that is put on top of the glyph that resembles a portal or a gateway in between the two Tet or power pillars. You assemble that, you get the throne of Osiris. And I'm convinced that the throne of Osiris and the throne of Christ are actually the same thing. Sticking with Egypt, we find the patch or the winged serpent symbol of the seraphim angels on the shoulder of Horus. And this leads us into a couple of interesting areas here. One, it indicates that Horus is a seraphim angel, and that the seraphim are not always portrayed as red-winged beings. They are in fact portrayed as blue beings as well. And that's a very important connection to make here. Do we have blue angels that are coming into our world? I've heard conversations on Gaiam TV and elsewhere about blue avian beings. Now, they never make the connection between their blue avians, their blue bird beings, and the bluebirds of ancient Egypt and of Christianity. But I will make that connection for them, that this is another possible manifestation of what are called the blue avians, who formed a portal or star door around the resurrected Jesus, and could well be playing a role in what we think of as the second coming. But the key feature here, or key thing that we want to lock onto and really get a handle on, is the Adamastia throne of the Starchild, which is, as I've said, the fully assembled Ark of the Covenant. Here's the Ark of the Covenant open. You see the golden box. You see the book, the tablets, the rod of enlightenment that budded, along with the flask of manna. All you have to do is take all of those components, parts on the left, and assemble them, and you get the throne of Christ. The throne of the Starchild that will be assembled at the time of the second coming is the same thing as the Ark of the Covenant. They're the same device. And this is what is being sought presently by figures from Iran, Iraq, Syria, elsewhere, including Israel and also America. There is a race to get a handle on this device, because without it, you can't see the fulfillment of your disclosure or your end time prophecies. That's why it's so key and so central. The starry cloak that is seen draped over the throne is, of course, the robe of righteousness. It's the light body. And the core guiding myth of Western civilization is the story of the recovery of our birthright, our light garment, and our return to our divine status as light beings. But most Christians, Jews, and certainly Muslims do not realize that Christ is shown ascending on the Ark Throne, and that this will be the device through which the Starchild manifests at the time of the second coming. This throne is a docking station, if you will, or a station. It's a portal. It's the key device of the Watchers, and it's fundamental to the Essene belief in human transformation. So let's take a look at a couple more examples here of the return of the Starchild, and always noting that his device is always close by. Here's the two angels opening the gateway or the portal, bringing the Starchild back to Earth. And there's his device. It's his property. There's one of these in the heavenly realms and one of these on the earth plane. And there are ambassadors, representatives, they're called the rainmakers, who will assemble this device in preparation for the return of Jesus. And then as a tolku, he will make or identify this as his property. So here's the throne of that will be the center of the disclosure event as well as the second coming. The ark with the robe, the book, and the cross or the pillar attached. Here you see it unassembled on the left and on the right, fully assembled. A couple more examples just to feed your imagination. These are in my book, The Judgment Day Device, by the way, in which I document these prophecies and talk about some of the world leaders who are actively seeking this device and its importance in our world. But what we're showing here is the return of the Starchild and the key things that will need to be assembled in preparation for that event. So by now this is familiar imagery to you, where the Jesus Starchild is in the portal up above. You see the transparent Hot Wheels. We see John the Baptist and Mary on either side of the etamesia or the throne that will be assembled on earth at the second coming, which is, in my opinion, going to be the same thing as disclosure. And here you see the correspondence between the images. On the right, the ark is not fully assembled. On the left, it is, to form the etamesia throne. And I'm going to wait just a moment here while Neil loads our final section. And while he's doing that, I will take a look, as we've done before, to see if I can answer any questions or address any comments. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Robert Jocks from Milwaukee. The real meaning of Christmas, a great present to us all. That was part of my intention, was to give you the backstory, the lost story, if you will, of the nativity, of that first Christmas, and how this was part of an event that had been a long time in the making, and involves ultimately the opening of a Stargate, a hole in space, the portal through which the Starchild manifested. But as we move forward now, we're seeing that this is totally relevant in our world, because again, world events are driving towards an event, the event. Call it disclosure, call it the second coming, call it the end of days, whatever, we're aiming for it. And it doesn't mean it's going to be the end of the world. It means, in my view, that we are preparing ourselves for the next level of vibration, of interconnection with these higher dimensional beings, these celestial beings, these angelic beings, but more importantly, the ability of individual divine sparks, souls, you and I, to make our own ascension into the celestial realms. This is the promise of our times and the revelation that disclosure offers. And whether you believe that you're going to enter into the cosmos in a tin can spaceship or in a celestial light vehicle, a Merkaba vehicle, that's up to you. And personally, I encourage people to follow the spiritual path, to recognize that this transformation is a spiritual one, not so much a technological one. However, it is possible that technology will be able to assist us in our ascension. And I encourage you to pick up a free copy of my book, The Singularity is Near, in which I document the technology that is being utilized presently for human transcendence and ultimately ascension. Immortality is now the business of Silicon Valley. All the major companies in the world, from Apple to Google to Microsoft, others, are actually in the immortality business and are actively pursuing technologies that will enable us to upload our consciousness into non-molecular light bodies and live forever as avatar-type beings in new simulated realities. That's their goal. And as I said earlier, that is the fulfillment of Judeo-Christian prophecy about the emergence of a new or next human and the transformation in the twinkling of an eye of our flesh and blood bodies into a different form at the end times. And as I said a moment ago, this is contrasted with the sort of non-technological approach that is primarily coming out of the Middle East, where they want to completely destroy Western civilization, meaning technological civilization. This is what it's really all about. It's about, once and for all, in their view, eliminating the use of technology as a way for humans to ultimately attain transcendence. This is why this technology does not come out of Egypt, why this transhuman technology, that is, why transhuman technology does not come out of Egypt, it doesn't come out of Syria, it doesn't come out of Iran, it doesn't come out of Iraq, Afghanistan, or Pakistan. These are primarily Muslim countries. The infusion of technology in our bodies comes from the Western world. Read the Judeo-Christian world, specifically America, which is driven by this premise that we can all improve ourselves. America is a physical space, but it's also a psychological space where anything is possible and where technology can be used to accelerate everything, including our transformation into advanced beings by infusing our flesh with technology. This is the ultimate battle of the Muslim world, who do not see technology as being a God-given gift, as does the Judeo-Christian world. And this is why this time it has so much drama and intensity about it, because you have people that, as I said a moment ago, 1 billion people in the Muslim world who mostly do not have toilets and do not even, and of course don't have telephones. So that means they are not living in the 21st century with the rest of us. They are living in another world, and they want to keep the world locked into this pre-21st century, pre-technological way of existence. And that's what's ultimately driving this so-called war on terror. These are the two conflicting viewpoints. But in my opinion, I think that what we're going to have to seek is a fusion and ultimate harmony, a blending of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There's no way that the three tracks can continue on the path that they're now. The reason why is because of the introduction of nuclear proliferation. When you have radical countries on all sides that possess nuclear weapons, they will use our nuclear isn't driving the doomsday clock these days. The atomic scientists last year pushed the doomsday clock forward to 2 minutes to midnight, not because of radical terrorism or nuclear proliferation. They pushed the doomsday clock forward due to artificial intelligence. The greatest threat to humanity right now is technology. It is artificial intelligence. When the machines take over, when they become conscious, aware, and take over, what will they do with their human creators? That's the big question. So we are now loaded up here with our final section. Thank you all again very much once again for your attention, your patience, putting your energy in this place right now. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation and gained awareness of not only the Starchild, but the importance of gaining true insight into these ancient disclosure and celestial events in our time. So let's finish now in this last section by taking another quick look at some of these descent of the Starchild images and how they inform us about what may be about to happen on our planet. So again, going back, we're looking at this last judgment image. We looked at it earlier. It's from Voronet in Romania. We see the layer cake with Jesus ultimately up at one of the higher levels. He's in his bubble of light, his luminous portal. He's got his Hot Wheels at his feet. And we see this stream of energy coming from this higher realm. Right beneath him is his throne, which is the throne of the second coming, his property. It's his device. It belongs to him. He will ultimately utilize this device once it's assembled. And as I mentioned earlier, it will be assembled by a group called the Rainmakers. I've documented these figures throughout history over the course of a couple of millennia. And I finally gained insight into why they're called the Rainmakers. And it's a bit of a pun. They're called the Rainmakers because when Christ manifests at the time of the second coming, he rides upon a cloud. That's another Silicon Valley term these days, right? The cloud is where we park all our information, and the cloud is where we're putting all our consciousness right now. And maybe the cloud is going to be some kind of a great unifier, technologically speaking, in human consciousness. But in terms of imagery such as this, the cloud is the vehicle, the luminous vehicle upon which the Starchild rides. And of course, clouds bring rain, a rain of cosmic vibration. So those who assemble the throne are called the Rainmakers because they assemble this device in anticipation of the Starchild riding upon the cloud. And as we saw a moment ago, coming from that cloud is this luminous stream of energy. You see this over and over again in Second Coming or Last Judgment art, as it's also called. In the middle of the image, we see our seraphim angels. We see the Starchild enthroned with this stream of energy going right through his device, his throne, then manifesting on the earth plane. The interesting thing about this is that, let's go back to that image just for a second. Look at this stream of energy coming from the throne. And now compare it with a coronal mass ejection coming from the sun. What if that throne is the sun? And what if this Last Judgment art is suggesting that at the time of the second coming of the Starchild, there will be an impulse of energy coming from the sun? Not just the S-O-N, as in the Son Jesus, but from the S-U-N. The Bible, the book of Revelation and Joel, makes several references to the sun going into an active phase in the quote-unquote end times, the time of the second coming. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. This verse is also repeated by Peter in Acts 2, verse 20. So what if we want to really look to the sun as an indicator of the timing of this disclosure, of this arrival of the Starchild? What if the opening in heaven is an opening in the sun? And what if the sun, as the ancient Egyptians taught and Russian scientists affirm, is in fact a sun tunnel, a star tunnel, or a star gate? Many will probably know that in 2008, NASA scientists discovered that a strange portal does connect Earth and Sun. Like giant cosmic chutes or serpent ropes between Earth and the Sun, magnetic portals open every 8 minutes or so to connect our planet with our host star. Once the portals open, loads of high-energy particles can travel the 93 million miles through the conduit during its brief opening, space scientists say. So here's a NASA illustration of this serpentine rope or conduit connecting the Earth, and you see this spread of cosmic particles manifesting in the aurora borealis. What if that is what they are portraying in this ancient art? In 2011, Russian scientists proposed that wormholes might exist between distant stars, that instead of being empty tunnels, these stargates or wormholes would contain a fluid that would flow back and forth between the two stars. So what we're inching up on here is a realization that the river of life flowing from the throne of God may not have to come clear across the galaxy or from some other universe. It might do that, but it could actually flow through our sun, and that we really need to the sun as an indicator of this time of disclosure, as well as the time of the second coming and the emergence of this impulse of energy. Here's a German depiction of the men in white, our Essenes or watchers carrying the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. Above them is Jesus and other luminous beings who are clearly being connected to the Ark of the Covenant in this painting as a conduit? What if the Ark of the Covenant as a device is in fact some kind of a device that channels this cosmic conduit from the sun? That's the question I want to address here briefly as I describe for you the fully functioning Ark of the Covenant and how it will be utilized in our time if, in fact, Jesus, the Messiah, or the Mahdi were to manifest during our time. In the mystical book, the Zohar, the Ark manifests a pillar or beam of light that serves as a conduit for the ascent of the souls of the righteous to paradise. It's called the foundation of the Mount of Sion, which is thought of as a cosmic center. This pillar of light is a plasma pillar that emanates from the Ark and is actually the throne of God. This is how the Starchild would actually be descending. Remember, we kept seeing this pillar of light descending in those nativity scenes? Now what we can fill in is the realization that waiting there was a receptacle, was the Ark of the Covenant that in fact manifested that pillar of light or drew it down into the earth plane. In Jewish mysticism, the term Zadok or righteous is given to this cosmic pillar that comes from the Ark, as well as the ones who scale it to heaven or perhaps from. This is the point of the Ark of the Covenant. You can imagine that if it is recovered in our time and used in a moment of disclosure or manifestation of the Christ Messiah or Mahdi, that those with open hearts and open minds would actually perceive this pillar manifesting from the Ark and coming into the earth plane. That is what these artists are conveying for us right here, is the fully operational Ark of the Covenant in use, producing this beam. And again, what we've got to fill in is the realization that this luminous pillar of light is a portal through which the righteous, meaning fully realized, especially self-realized humans, could pass into the celestial realms, and beings can come down from the celestial realms. It's the missing piece that is not seen in the nativity scenes, but I believe was there. This pillar is an incandescent, multicolored pillar at the center of Eden, upon which souls are capable of ascending through an opening in heaven. It's a conduit. It's also an accumulator of souls. Souls congregate around this vibration and use it for ascension. Here's how Hieronymus Bosch portrayed it in his famous painting of St. Jerome praying. He shows it over here as this glassy cylinder or pillar filled with stars through which a perfected being, a fully realized human, ascends. Sort of like beaming. Only Hieronymus Bosch had this idea in 1600 AD. Gene Roddenberry didn't have it until, what, 1958, 1960? So it seems like this idea of beaming via a pillar of light has been in the human imagination for millennia. And that is what I believe is portrayed in these Russian Last Judgment images, that the fully assembled Ark of the Covenant is a device that belongs to Jesus. And it's a beaming device. It's a device that he uses to ascend from the earth, but also to descend from the cosmic realms. Here's an example from the 12th century of Jesus ascending. You've got your two angels on either side. He's sitting. He is ascending on the fully operational ark that opens the pillar, which is seen behind him. Those concentric rings symbolize the pillar or conduit of righteousness opened by the Ark of the Covenant. And now he is ascending through that pillar. Look at this depiction here from 8th century in England. Jesus is sitting on his throne, the same one that's going to be recovered by the Mahdi or the Rainmakers. Feet on the footstool, angels on either side. Those are the seraphim who guard or watch the Ark of the Covenant. He's ascending through these concentric rings filled with stars. That's the pillar manifested by the Ark of the Covenant. He is ascending on the pillar of righteousness, or is he descending? I mean, just imagine what we're describing here is the appearance of this figure on this device, but it won't look like this. This is kind of the portrayal of the Ark of the Covenant made by those who really don't know what it is. They don't assemble it. They don't open the box and look in, as we have been doing. But in closing here, what I want to leave you with is that in order to participate in this event, whether you're Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, it's going to require a transformation of our consciousness. Because as the Israelite teaching tells us, and also the esoteric Christian teaching, you got to be a high priest in order to interact with the Ark of the Covenant. By definition, the Israelite high priest is one who wears the breastplate of righteousness, this multicolored stone set of jewelry, set of stones that you see here in this painting by James Tissot. It's the breastplate that symbolizes the high priest. It's called the Essene. And in fact, the Essenes are named after the Essene. The Essene means to be complete, finished, whole, or perfect. And it has the additional meaning of lights and perfections. This is what Jesus is seen wearing as the mystical high priest of the order of Melchizedek, or Michael Zadok, the priest king, of which he was a priest. In this painting by William Holman Hunt that is in St. Paul's Cathedral in London, we see Jesus wearing the helmet of salvation, the halo of vibration, the breastplate of righteousness, the robe of salvation, or the miracle garment, and he's holding a lantern symbolizing light. Now, the thing about it is that the Essene texts tell us that not just one high priest wore these garments. Multiple Essenes wore these simultaneously. That tells me that there's more than one breastplate of righteousness, helmet of salvation, robe of light. What it further tells me is that these probably weren't actual physical objects that these people were wearing. They are symbols of advanced consciousness that they possessed that enabled them to assemble the Ark of the Covenant and manifest the pillar of light. And if anybody, Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, wants to bring the Ark of the Covenant into our world and have this moment of disclosure and fulfill these end time prophecies, I believe they're going to have to do the same. What I mean is they're going to have to activate their higher consciousness. They're going to have to open their heart and put on the breastplate of righteousness. They're going to have to wear the robe of light, the shining luminescent robe. And in my opinion, murderers and terrorists will never be able to accomplish that. And this is my message to all people who seek this device for the love of power. It's about the power of love. And only they who have put on all of the garments of the high priest and high priestess, including the robe of light and the helmet and the breastplate, will be able to participate in this moment of disclosure and this end time event that we refer to as the second coming. Only then will you be able to enter the cube-shaped Holy of Holies. And in the evidence that I presented in the Judgment Day device, I showed that the Ark of the Covenant is a portal. It's an intersection between heaven and earth. And that the reconstructed Temple of Solomon, which they say will be rebuilt to house this device, is a place of ascension. It's key for us to understand that. It was not built with hands, this Temple of Solomon. What this tells me is that this temple and the device that will be placed in it may not have a physical manifestation. It will be built without hands in our imagination. It will be something that we will create in our bodies. We will choose to activate our higher consciousness. We will choose to open our heart and be beings of love. We will choose to wear the belt of truth, meaning we will speak only truth. we will choose to wear the sandals of peace of the high priest. And only in putting those garments on and all of those psycho-spiritual attributes will we then be able to engage the Starchild. Because otherwise, I'm not sure if we'll be able to see this figure. And this is the importance of images such as this of Gabriel appearing before Zacharias, the father of John the Baptist. Gabriel is here to announce to Zacharias that Zacharias' wife, Elizabeth, will bear John the Baptist as a child, another star child. And as you can see, Zacharias is fully attired with the crown, the breastplate, the belt, the sandals, the robe, in preparation for engaging or encountering this super fast moving higher vibrational being, the Archangel Gabriel. That is what we all need to do today to prepare. We need to activate our consciousness. We need to activate our heart. We need to put on and speak only truth and wear the sandals of peace. And in so doing, we will put ourselves at the vibration of not only the high priest Jesus, but also Padmasambhava, the guru. We will then be prepared to sit on the throne and hold the resurrection stick, which again is our spinal cord system. This is what I see as the ultimate moment of disclosure. It comes from a time when mass numbers of people commit to their ascension, to fully understanding that the ascension mysteries are within us. It's not necessarily seeking a tin can spaceship. It's rather putting on the crown, activating our resurrection stick, our spinal cord system, putting our compassion in action, radiating golden rays, and living life as the wise beings we know that we are and can be. And so this is what we're seeing here in the crossover here is the Starchild now is the high priest engaging us energetically and saying, do it. Put on the breastplate, but don't look for it as jewels out here. Look for it as a jewel that is revealed from within you, the jewel in the heart of the lotus. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Claire chants that all the time, and it's a setting her intention to reveal that jewel, that breastplate from within herself. And so here's, as I leave you with the correspondence between the high priest Jesus and Padmasambhava, I'm asking you to make that choice on a daily basis, to maybe make a screenshot of this image, to visualize yourself putting on that crown every day, putting on that breastplate, putting on the belt of truth and the sandals of peace. You know, this comes from the Apostle Paul, who clearly told us that in the book of Ephesians, in his letter to the Ephesians, that there is a cosmic force out here, that there is a cosmic battle going on, and humans are caught in that battle. And the only way to protect ourselves is to put on the crown of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, the sandals of peace, and to hold the sword of truth and the shield of faith. In my opinion, the shield of faith that he's talking about is the rainbow body of light. For as Carlos Castaneda said, who also talked about our shining luminous body as a shining coat, and also talked about a predator that seeks to keep us from manifesting our rainbow body, that all we need to do is to lift the rainbow body to the level of our toes. That's something I believe is achievable by all of us. We can all lift our vibration just to the level of the toes, and that will give us a glimpse of the incredible and glorious energy of these beings, enough to where we can enter into their field and they can come into our field and uplift us even to the higher levels. So how do we achieve this body? Attaining this rainbow light body, robe of glory, is the subject matter of the Gnostic robe of glory, or the hymn of the pearl that I mentioned earlier. It's a mystical work that illuminates the sayings of Jesus and compares the robe to a pearl. The formation of a pearl begins when a foreign substance slips into an oyster between its mantle organ and its shell, which irritates the mantle. The mantle covers the irritant with layer upon layer of material called nacre. And like the pearl, the robe or mantle of light is formed by layer upon layer of acts of love. Compassion in action is the way that Tibetans express it with the term Vajra, the lightning bolt. If we have compassion in action, we have the power of lightning. We have the power of these plasma, lightning-like beings to transform ourselves as well as to transform our world. It's the ultimate weapon. The more acts of love, the more layers to your robe of light. No acts of love, no robe of light, no Ark of the Covenant, no celestial manifestations, no arrival of the Messiah, the Christ, the Mahdi, whatever. In conclusion, I often like to cite Jesus' statement on perfection. He says, I tell you, for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven, a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. I believe that what the Starchild is talking about here is the attainment of the rainbow body and the opening of the ultimate eye of the needle, the portal, the Stargate, and the recognition that in order to do so, we have got to shift our vibration. As in Salvador Dali's incredible painting here, this manifests the rainbow, a plasma-like body, a rainbow-like body that's luminous. He's nearly fully here in our dimension, nor is he fully in the other dimension. He's phasing in between, and that's the place where we all find ourselves now, phasing in between the earthly and the heavenly. And what had happened in this story is that a rich man had asked Jesus, hey, what is required for eternal life? And Jesus replied, follow the commandments. Love with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like unto it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. The rich man told Jesus he had always kept the commandments and wanted to know what else was required. And Jesus told him, if thou wilt be perfect, and here's the punchline, meaning whole, holy, complete, go and sell what you've got, give it to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven, and then come and follow me, the Starchild, through the eye of the needle. That's the ultimate victory that was attained in that moment on Easter morning that we began our conversation with several hours ago. The morning of resurrection, when he attained victory as a human being, showing us the way to ascend into the heavenly realms. I hope you have enjoyed our presentation today. It's been my absolute honor and pleasure to spend this time with you. I will very much look forward to joining you, hopefully on future Portal to Ascension events. I want to thank Neil Gower, everyone at Portal to Ascension for making this event happen, making it possible. God bless you all, and take love in your heart everywhere you go. You're making a difference in our world, and God bless you for it. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.